All right, we're going to ask all the board members if they can come in. I know, I was looking. We got one, four, right? Oh, more. All right, all of our board members are coming to the dais. We are going to call this meeting to order. We're going to call this meeting to order, and I am going to ask School Board Member Kayla Duhart if she would lead us in the pledge.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you so much. And now we will move to item 1.3, approval of the agenda.
Second, and can I just comment on the agenda? And thanks to Ms. Christakis, I'd asked her to put the amounts in the abbreviated part in terms of the consent items, and that really did help a lot. because-
Okay. They worked on it diligently, I know, but they came to work,
Well, thank you,
Karen,
Karen.
and we're working through all of our technology, so I think we're getting better and better each.
When we're going
meeting.
through it, and there's something in there for $2 million or $20 million, you really want to know what it is to take extra care. Thank you.
And while we're on this topic, on the next agenda board, we'd ask you to consider at the approval of the agenda, when we do this now, also pulling consent items. That'll make it easier for Ms. Cunningham to pull those out, because if you remember, you have to take individual action on each of those consent items
Right.
afterwards. So in terms of process, we won't do it this meeting, but the next meeting, if you could remember to have your consent items that you want to pull, ready to pull when we adopt the agenda, that'd be fantastic.
Okay, so we'll make sure everyone's aware. There is a motion, I don't know if there was a second. Is there a second on that one?
Second.
There was a, all right, it's been moved and properly second, and we are going to vote. I believe it's right there in front of us. Mr. Tillman, did you vote on your screen?
I did. Make sure I'm not voting for someone else, because I definitely did push yay. Thank you.
Okay, so it's not going to pop up? So is the motion carried? Okay. So we will now move on to item 1.4. It's going to be from Mr. Michael Gallo.
Okay, it gives me great pleasure tonight to showcase a student, Lizette Mora, who's sitting up front here. I'm going to ask her to give the inspirational reading tonight. It's not really a reading. I just asked her to come tell her story. And I'm sure this will be inspirational to all of us and showcase the value of the investments we've been making in career pathways and inspiring and engaging our students. And so, Lizette, I'm going to ask you to come on up to the podium. And if you wouldn't mind sharing your story, that would be wonderful.
Welcome.
Please welcome Lizette.
Hi. My name is Lisette Mora. At a young age, my family and I became homeless. we hit rock bottom. We had nowhere to go and nowhere to move. We moved from place to place, motels, parks, and family houses. As we were homeless for many years, you might say things got easier for a time, but unfortunately my mother fell at work and hurt her back. And due to that, my mother was unable to work. This caused our family to go through dark times. We had no income and no place to go. At this point of our lives, we needed to survive. Thankfully, we got help from local schools, affordable housing, shelters, and other organizations. As time went on, my mother felt the need to go back to work, although she wasn't fully recovered from her injury. She did this because as a parent, she felt that she had a responsibility to provide for her family. When I started high school, we had financial struggles, but we did our best. During freshman year, I didn't know what I wanted to do or programs to get involved in or sports to participate in. Then I met Mr. Dalmani, the manufacturing teacher at Indian Springs High School. He described to me about having a career in manufacturing where he could design parts on paper, software, or physically create them by using high technology machines. This really stood out to me. I ended up choosing this program as an elective for my sophomore year. I was really excited. I was enjoying working with all the machines, tooling, and equipment. I had no idea that this exists before joining the class. I was really inspired. I was really inspired that. So the equipment there is for, it's not just equipment, it's in actual industries. So that was really a thing that really got to me. I was like, wow, we're learning on machines that are in industries, and we're going to be creating things on these expensive machines. And then, sorry.
You're doing fine.
So in the 3 years, for 3 years I was in the program, and I got a NIM certification for measurement and safety my sophomore year. And as I got the certification, I realized that having the certification will give me a greater chance of getting a better job in the field. During my senior year in high school, I received a scholarship to attend TET, Technical Employment Training. After I graduated, I went there, and I was looking forward to becoming a great machinist. While I participated in the 6-month program at TET, I learned vast amount of skills pertaining to the industry at TET, and refined my skills that I learned from Indian Springs High School. In addition, I got 2 more NIM certifications, CNC mill operations, and job planning, benchwork, and layout. I knew that having the 2 additional certifications, sorry, I can't talk,
Fine, you're
added
doing
to my
great.
portfolio, I had a greater chance of obtaining a greater career. As I finished the 6 months at TET, I had entered a California State apprenticeship for 4 years, where I'm trained by a master craftsman and getting job training as well. After the 4 years, I'll become a master with the state of California. I look forward to becoming a highly experienced machinist where my skills will be available to assist at any company or school. Right here I have one of the parts I'm doing right now. It's a transmission bushing for Honda, and this part is actual job. So we're not just making parts; it's an actual job. And at Indian Springs, we're learning precision as well. So when you get from Indian Springs learning how to use the machines and stuff, and then go to TET, you're getting more precision and learning how to use the machines so you could get actual jobs and getting more experience with that field. That's all I have.
Awesome.
And
Mr. Gallo?
thank you, Lizette.
I would like to bring up another student from Indian Springs High School. He's actually in the academy, senior year.
Hello, my name is Andrew Teran. I'm actually a senior year. This is my last year. One of the things I actually got into because of this was a Loma Linda club where I actually got to do prosthetics. One of the things that was challenging for me is that I wanted to do something medical because I wanted to help people because that's one of the things I really wanted to do. But I can't really sit still and I don't have the patience for it. So machining was kind of where I pushed myself to it. But Damani kind of put me to the side and he talked to me and told me about this amazing club. And it kind of inspired a little bit into me and kind of move on forward. And yeah, we come from San Bernardino. It isn't the most, wonderful spot, and it has kind of brought me in a really dark place because, family wasn't as wealthy. My mom was in school, took care of 4 of us. So a lot of it was kind of hard on me because my older brother wasn't the best example, but I try not to lead to that example, and I try to set something forward for everyone else to show that just because we come from San Bernardino doesn't mean that we are expected from have low expectations. So this club kind of taught me how to maintain my time, money, and move on with my life. I was able to move out by 17. I live on my own at the moment, so I'm just continuing on with that. One of the things I really want to do is I want to get my CNC license so I can use that to pay for my school to continue on with prosthetics. But thank you for hearing me out.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
Thank you, Andrew.
Mr. Gallo?
So these are the kind of students that we see every single day in our 50-something career pathways, right, you guys? I just thought it would be great for you to hear from them. So
Thank you.
thanks again, Lizette and Andrew.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here. We appreciate you sharing the successes with us.
Can I say something? I want to thank you both. You're an inspiration to us because we have these ideas, and then here you are in front of us showing that you can do it, right? And you'll be doing greater things, I foresee, because this is just a beginning for you. And that's what we aspire to do, is to give you hope. It's making hope happen, but you are the hope. You are the ones that will create more pathways for many other students. So a big applause to you.
We are now at item 2.1, resolution in support of Proposition 13, Public Preschool, K-12, and College Health and Safety Bond Act of 2020, Assembly Bill 48. Dr. Hill, could you read the resolution? Oh, wait. See if it's, yes, just click.
Thank you, Madam President. Whereas, right one here. Okay, whereas all students deserve safe, welcoming, and stimulating learning environments that support personal well-being and academic success, and whereas school bond funds help schools provide safe facilities that offer the learning opportunities required for a high-quality 21st century education, and whereas Proposition 13, the Public Preschool, K-12, and College Health and Safety Bond Act of 2020 provides resources for the renovation and upgrade of existing classrooms, for campuses that increase student and staff safety, for classrooms and laboratories that enhance teaching and learning, for the construction and expansion of schools to accommodate growth, and for career technical education facilities to improve job and career training. And whereas Proposition 13 will provide career technical education facilities for job training to meet the workforce needs of California's employers, help ensure successful futures for our state students. And whereas Proposition 13 will provide additional funding for energy efficiency, earthquake safety, removal of hazardous materials, and more, And whereas Proposition 13 will appear on the March 3rd, 2020 ballot and become operative only if approved by voters. And whereas Proposition 13 will provide $15 billion for facilities at the state's preschools, K-12 schools, community colleges, and four-year colleges and universities. And whereas Proposition 98 and the local control funding formula, which provide general fund operational revenues for schools, do not provide dedicated facility fundings, and therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the San Bernardino City Unified School District supports Proposition 13, the Public Preschool, K-12, and College Health and Safety Bond Act of 2020 on the March 3rd, 2020 or 2020 statewide ballot.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and properly second. Let's vote.
Yeah, I have a
sorry.
discussion item. This isn't the one that they're proposing to make changes to Proposition 13 and
This
taxation.
is the,
It's different, right?
the new
schools in,
Proposition 13.
right, this is not the
Different,
old.
Right,
This is
yeah.
for facilities. It just happened that 13
Got it.
popped up next.
The name,
The name, I mean, the number 13.
Number,
It's
yeah.
coincidental.
It's coincidental, yeah.
absolutely.
I think they're trying to change the narrative about the
Used a lot of.
Yeah,
Well,
it has.
They are, but this isn't, this has nothing to do with that, right?
No, it has nothing to do with it, no.
But for
Other
years,
one's a
we never,
split
the
row.
Prop 13 has been synonymous with the historic Prop 13. I've never heard of a Proposition 13 other than that.
Right, I haven't either.
Apparently, this is the number, sequence of numbers for this particular next proposition. So it's unfortunate because it's confusing.
Okay, given that,
All right, let's vote. Mr. Tillman? Is it not going to show? Right, Miss, from who, from
Danny?
Mr. Tillman?
Tillman.
All right, motion carried. Thank you. We are now at item 3.1. Are there any comments, public comments?
Yes, Madam President, we do have one public comment on item 3.1, which is under closed session. Board welcomes Ms. Ashley Beta-Salcala, our new Teachers Association President.
Good evening, President Rogers, Vice President Wyatt, Superintendent Marsden, and members of Cabinet and the Board. I'm Ashley Beta-Salcala, President of the San Bernardino Teachers Association. And tonight, I just wanted to speak on one of the items that you agendized for closed session regarding the superintendent search discussion. I just want to remind the board that not 2 weeks ago, we were here giving our input as a community to you about what our priorities are for the next superintendent and the person that we want to lead this great organization. I think it's important to remind you that you owe it to the community not to rush into this decision and to follow a process where you are vetting candidates rather than just passing around names. So as president of the Teachers Association, we would ask that you keep that commitment to the community and seriously consider a process that allows people to put their names forward, to properly be vetted so that you can choose the best candidate for our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Those are all the public comments on this topic.
All right, we will now adjourn, item 3.2, we'll adjourn to closed session. Thank you, and we shall return. We have a scheduled time at 6:45. Thank you. All right, thank you for your patience. You are all, have been very kind, and we're back actually on time, and maybe even a minute earlier. How about that? I think we have, let's see, yes.
Taskmaster.
Yeah. We're going to move to item 4.1. This is an elementary school vice principal appointment. And it reads, be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the appointment of the following employee, Casey Tamika, elementary school vice president, Brown, effective date, work year, and I said president, I'm giving away Scott's role, sorry. Vice principal, Brown, effective date, work year, and salary to be determined. Your vote? Is there, okay, it's been moved and properly second. Dr. Wyatt?
Dr. Flores.
Just into the mic. All right, let's vote. All right, motion carried. We're now moved to item 4.2. 4.2, Class 19-20-11. Be it resolved that the Board of Education accepts the notice of recommendation for disciplinary action and statement of charges to suspend without pay for 3 days the following classified employee from his or her employment with the district, HR Class 19-20-11.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. No discussion. We will vote. All right. All right, motion carried. Dr. Marsden?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I wanted to take this time, Board, and introduce to you. We have three new folks that have been hired recently who are here tonight as part of their onboarding, so we'd like them to stand and kind of wave while we call their names. So Vidal Naranjo, Ground Supervisor for Maintenance and Operations. All here. And Beverly McCarthy, Coordinator, Psychological, Behavioral, and Specialized Related Services. Beverly here? She was here, okay. How about Lawrence Smith, our Vice Principal for Cajon High School? Is he still here? Oh, he was here also. Okay, so maybe we need to do this even a little earlier, but thank you very much. Just, we'll welcome them another
Well,
time.
congratulations to them nevertheless, if they're watching. All right, we will now move to item 5.1, revised 2020-2021 traditional school calendar. And we are opening, are we opening? Five point two, yeah, well, it looks like it's a public hearing. So I'm going to open up for the public hearing on item 5.1.
And we have no public comments, so if you want to close the
All
public
right, I
hearing, then
will
take the vote.
close the hearing. I'm actually banging on something here. All right. So we closed on that. We will,
Do we get complaints about the long, Christmas break?
need to take a vote.
I said, do we get complaints about the long Christmas
There,
break?
Chairman, ask you a question.
I'm sorry, we were trying to look at the item. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do we get complaints about the long Christmas break?
I have not, from the students, I have not.
The parents?
Parents.
Okay.
We get, the students said they're good. No, I don't.
Everybody's happy.
They love it.
No, and I recall being on that committee at one point in time, and I think
And the teachers love it.
gave in good input. All right. Oh, here we go. Okay, so be it resolved that the Board of Education receives and accept the revised 2020-21 traditional school calendar.
So moved.
Let's vote. Everybody vote. All right, motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.1, school board members, and we are proud to have our school board members with us. Did I call them student, what did I call them? Student school board members. They brought up a very important topic, and I just love how we are so responsive on the concerns that they have, because of course, we know that their voice is important. Dr. Volkmer, I did mention the night that they asked about their voting rights, and so Dr. Volkmer was so kind to put together a board correspondence that all of you should have. And I know our students, they have that also on the dais for themselves, and I asked them to stay tonight and to look over the options. And so, Dr. Volkmer, would you like to add any? And then we're going to hear from our student board members as well.
Sure. Excuse me. Thank you, Madam President. Board, just very, very quickly, you can see that the board did adopt a new policy in May of 2018 that includes the provisions from what was then Assembly Bill 261, chaptered as an Ed Code change in 35012. So I gave you three options, and these are very basic options that you can consider. You can do some hybrid. One would be to keep your current agenda and have the students wait until we get to action items and cast their preferential voting then. The advantage of that is that their vote would be in close proximity to your vote. The disadvantage is obviously that we would keep them sometimes very late into the evening. So that's the plus and minus of option one. Option two is to have them do their preferential voting during what we now call student board member comments, which is the part of the agenda we're coming up to. The advantage of that is that if they needed to get home and get some homework done or other responsibilities, they could. The disadvantage, of course, is that their vote wouldn't be in close proximity to your vote. And then the third option that we listed for you is to re-engineer the agenda itself and put your action items just before student board member comments so they could actually coincide with the work you're doing in terms of their preferential voting. So, and you can play with that any way you want.
All right, so our student board members.
Hi, Kayla Duhart. I was talking with Eric as well, and I told Anessa about it, the other board member. And regarding the other options, both 2 or 3, we preferred because they both were in the schedule. Personally, I do a lot at my school. Have 3 AP classes and AC president, and there's a lot of times where trying to balance everything out. But I do want to have a preferential vote. I want to be able to participate in that way. I guess option 2 and 3 would best coincide with that. Thank you.
And did you have any other comments for us tonight? You can also do that as well.
Yeah, basically I wanted to mention our ISHS blood drive. We this time are opening it to the community within us because our local hospitals are 1,500 pints under. And so to help with that, we have opened it to the community where they'll be able to have a pass into the class just to donate to help bring up the pints that our local hospitals would need.
Perfect. Thank you.
IH, talking about Indian Springs?
Indian Springs, yes.
Just want to make it clear for the people watching on TV.
Yes, Indian Springs High School.
And so I'm trying to the board members, and then we're going to give comments back to them
Oh, is that what
first.
you're doing?
Yes.
Okay, let them do
So,
it first.
Yes,
Okay.
because they're going first. Go ahead.
So I just want to emphasize, I also agree with choosing option 2. I think it's the best.
Okay.
I just want to emphasize the donation to the Cardinal City Museum from UCLA for 45 archival boxes, which is the estimated value of $2,200, and that puts, along with $1,000 donated by the city of San Bernardino, puts the archival project at the museum 60% done, and we're expected to finish around April or March or April, and also the museum will be creating a small section there as a photo booth. It'll be themed as a 1950s diner where students or anyone could go and to get their picture taken. The museum's also working on purchasing a Snapchat filter that says Cardinal City Museum. So we're still working on those things. We were able to accomplish, we were able to accomplish recognizing some well-accomplished students in the district, including from people from Hone High School. They're very well diverse with their academics and their passions in life. I'm very happy to include these two young people here later on today, our profile on the Instagram. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Flores, and then.
Yes,
Mrs.
I wanted to
Medina?
ask Kayla, which one do you prefer out of 2 and 3?
Option 2.
Option 2, okay. So you also preferred option 2, and yes, Vanessa, okay, great. Just wanted to clarify.
Madam President?
Ms. Medina, and then Mr. Tillman?
I just wanted to find out regarding the consent items, because I know this would be something that to look for in the action items, but I'm wondering, can they also pull items or at least bring comments on the consent item?
Thank you for that clarification, Ms. Rosales Medina. Yeah, they could. Anything that you're going to take action on, they have a right to give preferential voting. So they, during their comments, could say, in concern to consent item 1121, this is how I feel about it. This is my preference. Okay, so they could do that for consent items as well. Anything you're taking action on. Thank you for that clarification.
And I also wanted to put as an option to the student board members, since you're choosing more of the option 2, that if the Dr. Marsden had mentioned, Superintendent Dr. Marsden mentioned earlier that we would possibly vote on the consent items earlier, and then looking at possibly doing in the action items, that would make sense, and that way the students are able to participate in that as part of the option 3, where you can still have a voice and hear our, because the thing is that, I'm glad that you decided to go with 2, but at the same time, if you really want to be part of the process and you're able to hear what we're saying on certain items, and then you want to also feel like you have a voice on that piece. I'm just putting that, so that way you can feel like you're part of it, not necessarily just giving viewpoints during your comments.
Thank you. Mr. Tillman?
So just clarification, what is the archival project?
The archival project is, so we have the museum, the person that works in the museum, I can't think of his title at the moment, but he is basically the guy that organizes all of our artifacts in the museum. And so the archival project, we're just organizing all the artifacts we have and going through them, dating them, putting them in chronological order for the museum's grand reopening later on.
This is at San Bernardino High School?
San Bernardino High School, yes.
Museum is the county museum, or what museum?
Cardinal City Museum, because
Cardinal City
yeah.
Museum. Where's the museum we located at?
It'll be at the high school, that's where it's currently at, but it's going to
Okay.
be relocated on campus.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Is there other comments? Did you have a comment, Dr. Hill? Microphone?
I was just gonna say his name is Hazy Laris. No, it starts with a C. He graduated from
It's-
San Bernardino High School a couple of years ago. and
It's
that's-
Azael Calleros. I can't think of his job title at the moment. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Make sure you contact Dr. Hill, because she was at San Bernardino High School
There's all the archives?
a long time ago.
You saying Dr. Hill should be an artifact in the
Uh-oh.
museum?
Okay, we're
Is
losing
that
it.
what you're suggesting, Mr.
You
Tillman?
may have some pictures from a long time ago at San Bernardino High School. Right, Dr. Hill?
As well as the Tillman family. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
We have our student board member has another comment. Go ahead.
Going back to what you were saying, yes, when I talked to Nessa, option 2 and 3 really came up for discussion because we did get that vote. Back to as you were saying, we did agree with option 3 more. We just didn't want to like inconvenience your guys' agenda in any way. But, if option 3 can be, that's what we'd go for. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate that because we are making some adjustments anyway, and to try to assist with our technology to be a little bit more efficient. So I think we're going to work it out. And so whatever is best so that your voice definitely will be entered in and you will see, just like tonight, you raised this and we brought it forward. So, Ms. Medina?
And I just want to mention, don't hesitate for our convenience. At the same time, you're here to represent the students, and this is something that if you want to participate, I just want to make sure that you understand you don't have to try to accommodate us. We want to make sure that we're hearing you.
Dr. Flores?
Madam President, so, just to be clear, so now you changed your preference to number 3? Okay, and also you. Okay, so all 3 of you prefer preference 3. Okay, thanks. Just clarifying.
Right, thank you. All right, thank you for your input. We'll now move to item 7.1, and I noticed that we still don't have it in there, but I did keep my little blue slip to read. Public comment is the time during the agenda when the Board of Education is prepared to receive comments from members of the public on any matter within the board's jurisdiction. The public may address the board on any relevant matter, including but not limited to specific items on the agenda, policies, regulations, and procedures of the district, comments on programs, services, or operations of the district, fiscal matters of the district, or other matters of concern to the board in its official capacity. This is the only time on the agenda that the public will have an opportunity to address the board on items not on the agenda. Leave your requests in the box provided. When recognized, step to the podium, give your full name, and limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes. If more than 6 people wish to speak on one topic, only 30 minutes total will be allotted. Dr. Marsden?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Board welcomes Larry Ortega. Would like to speak on the topic of Community Technology Report, an event announcement for February 8th at noon. Good evening, Mr. Ortega, and welcome.
Right here. I actually had provided you a handout.
Maybe, Mr. Ortega, you pull that microphone towards your mouth.
Sorry.
There you go.
I actually have provided you a handout that summarizes a little bit of what I'm going to be talking to you about. But before I get my remarks started, I wanted just to say congratulations on the work that you were doing with the career track. Those 2 students were very moving. I had an opportunity to hear them earlier, and just fantastic work. I love it. So congratulations on that. My goal, my name is Larry Ortega, and my goal today is to really spark a conversation around awareness on a particular issue, cell phones and wireless technology. But before I get to that, you probably want to know who I am and probably why you should listen to me. I'm a 35-year technology veteran. I've spent the last 25 years getting key technology resources to children and parents across California. Our work in cooperation with hundreds of schools and libraries throughout the state has touched over 30 million people via the media coverage that we have received. We've actually, since our inception, have lifted over 30,000 children and adults out of the digital divide and onto the pathway of empowerment. What I'm about to say to you today should only be interpreted as supporting this community, specifically children and their parents, getting the facts relative to radiation and EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, emitted from cell phones and wireless technology. Cell phone and radiation and wireless technology has affected my immediate circle of family and friends, namely Sylvia, Bear, and Antonio, who had the following in common. They were heavy cell phone users. All 3 were found to have brain tumors, with Bear and Antonio succumbing to brain cancer. Brain cancer, as we all know, used to be extremely rare. Now, almost everyone in this room knows someone who has had a brain tumor. Now, these were 3 adults, but what about the effects on children? Which brings me to why I'm here today. What effect does radiation emitted from a cell phone have on a 6-year-old child, on a middle school child, on a high school child? In 2008, there was a congressional hearing chaired by Congressman Kucinich.
The congressman demonstrated through expert testimony that radiation penetrates halfway through a 6-year-old child's brain when that child places the cell phone next to his head. How could this be, you may ask? The government will protect us, right? Cell phone providers and the industry will regulate themselves to ensure safety to consumers, right? Well, the answer to those questions is no on both accounts. In fact, the Chicago Tribune just last year sponsored a study and wrote about this study that said that most of us are getting about 5 to 7 times the radiation per the standard that was set by the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. The manual that comes with our cell phones, which none of us read, says that we should not hold this cell phone next to our heads. Says that we should have a 2-finger space. But despite this warning, everyone holds the phone against their head, against their ear. We all do it with total disregard for the dangers we may be putting into our brains, due, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, to the lack of awareness of the potential harms to adults and to children. The Federal Communications Commissions Act of 1996 is the law that was written 24 years ago and is the only governing principle relative to the standards set forth on wireless and cell phone technology. The trick of this is that there is absolutely no relation to this law and to the technology that is in play today. And the other big problem is that this particular law was written without ever testing children handling cellular devices. So it's incumbent upon us to do something about it. And I'm hopeful that these facts will engage subsequent conversation so that we may talk and work together and letting the public, letting your community at San Bernardino Unified School District know about these challenges and these harms, and perhaps we can save a few lives. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Much appreciate you coming tonight. Board welcomes Kathleen Brennan on AB 2269. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. First of all, thank you all for the privilege to speak tonight. I know how busy you all are. My name is Kathleen Brennan. I'm the president of Teamsters Local 1932. I'm here to speak.
I'm sorry, can you,
I'm sorry, is it getting a little crazy?
Yeah.
A little louder.
Kathleen Brennan, president of Teamsters Local 1932. As you all know, California signed into law AB 2269, which encourages schools to educate the kids on the importance of labor movements and the impact they've had in the state of California and this country as a whole. The middle class would not exist if it had not been for the labor unions. And if the working class had not come together to form labor unions to obtain their fair share from their employers. Unions are the last line of defense when it comes to workers being mistreated and discriminated against. And sadly, in this area, there are many workers that are exploited on a daily basis simply because they are not represented by unions and therefore unaware of their rights and unable to exercise them effectively. My hope is that we can educate the students on these issues that they can then in turn relay and empower their families. We need to change the false narrative about labor unions that the CEOs and Wall Street have had over the last 3 decades, because the false narrative has led to the union density being at an all-time low, which it's no surprise that income inequality is now at an all-time high. The truth is this: when unions are at their strongest, the middle class is at its strongest, period. We need to get back to this, and we do this by educating the masses and starting with the children here in San Bernardino. I'd like to see this city once again become the all-American city it once was, 1977. I know we can do this, but unions are going to play a big part of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to meet you, Ms. Brennan. Board welcomes Trayvon Martin. He had to take off, I think. All right. Board welcomes Ms. Sheila Houston. speaking on the topic of Lytle Creek Elementary. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, members of the board and the cabinet. My name is Sheila Houston from Lytle Creek Elementary School. Some of you may already know that every year my next door neighbor teacher and I have a Black History Living Museum. And I am here tonight to invite you to Lytle Creek Elementary School on February 26th. The hours kind of vary between our recesses and lunch. It's going to be all day. And the times are actually on the flyer I just handed you. And this year, my fifth graders will become great Black heroes who made music that what it is today. We are going to be musicians like Scott Joplin, Diana Ross, Whitney Houston, Billie Holiday, Stevie Wonder, and even Snoop Dogg and 50 Cent. So I would like to welcome all of you to come and cheer our students on in F103 and F104 and take a walk through history with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Board welcomes Ms. Esmeralda Negretti. Good evening, Ms. Negretti. Welcome.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for your time. I want to share with you something that I believe needs to be fixed, and it's a board policy. On February 29, 2020, I drove to secondary education because my child had not received an application for the lottery for the 3 middle schools that we have here. And after being asked to wait, Kyra came out with the initial clerk who had asked me to wait in the lobby. And she brought out a printout and pointed out to the printout that my daughter was not meeting the requirements, which, all of you, I have shared with all of you, she has always been a high achiever. She rates above her grade level. So there's absolutely no way that my daughter did not meet the qualifications when it comes to academics. What she did do was she pointed out to the criteria that has to do with the testing. She said my daughter was missing the test, and I informed her that that was correct. We have been a Common Core opt-out family for many years, so there would not be any testing, for her. And so I asked her, I said, could you provide me the application? And she refused to. She, not flat out refused, but she then again pointed out again to that criteria saying she doesn't have the test score. So I asked her, I said, are you refusing to provide me the application? And she pointed out again to that criteria. And she said that Mr. Acosta was in a meeting until noon. And, if I wanted to schedule an appointment, which I said I did, and I followed Isabel to her desk. And we made an appointment, for two appointments for the following week and the next week, because of course I will not meet with him alone. The plan was to bring an attorney to get this fixed. And so I'm asking all of you, because she did point out that this board policy, and it's 5116.2, had just been reviewed by the board and showed how that, the vote went yes and the yes and the no's, and everyone voted yes for this. I went ahead and contacted the Pacific Justice Institute. The Pacific Justice Institute, Mr. Michael Peffer, sent a letter to Texaco, Kenan Mitchell, and CC Del Marston. So he's aware of this letter. I'm not sure if this letter was forwarded to our board or not, letting them know that, of course, board policy can be implemented. However, when it comes down to San Bernardino City Unified being a local educational agency, you cannot have board policy that it's going to be and this is, let me share with you what it says. The law prohibits reprisals on students. Under the new law requires the districts to annually notify parents of state laws allowing the opt-out of their students. So, meaning that your board policy that was reviewed, it's in violation of some of these ed codes that we have out there. So I've asked if you in good faith would put it for the agenda coming up in March with the corrections.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grady, for bringing that to our attention.
Madam President?
Yes.
And I'm sure the policy was meant to be more inclusive. I know Dr. Mitchell, when we did the policy, that was the purpose. So I'm sure this was something that was an oversight, and we're not going to exclude students who have opted out of the curriculum, right? We'll fix the policy?
Absolutely, Mr. Tillman.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, because that's important. I know we were looking at that policy, and we want to the whole purpose was revisiting also for inclusion. And so we want to make sure that all those little details are looked at. And I know those that are on the policy committee can follow up and make sure, I'm not sure which board members, but thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board welcomes Ms. Kenesha Boyd on the San Bernardino Food Fest. Evening, Ms. Boyd, and welcome.
Good evening. My name is Kenesha Boyd. I'm a local resident. I've attended San Bernardino schools from elementary all the way through college. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We just wanted to invite our local schools to visit the San Bernardino Food Fest. We've been in operation now since July of 2019. Our goal was to revitalize the city of San Bernardino, especially the downtown area and other surrounding areas. So we want to extend an invitation to all of our local school districts, the students, their organizations, cheer, sports activities, band, musicians, anyone that wants to join and participate to be part of our ceremony. Our next event will be on February 22nd. It is a Black History Appreciation event. It will be from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. We are currently running monthly. If you would like any further details or information, you're more than welcome to visit our website at www.sbfoodfest.com, as well as you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at SB Food Fest. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Well, and before you leave, one, if you could tell us the schools you went to when you were in San Bernardino City, that'd be great just to know.
I attended elementary at Kimbark Elementary in DeVore. I then went on to Shannon Hills Elementary, graduated from Cajon. I'm not going to tell you what year.
Great. You know, I did not have to ask you the year, just curious. That's fantastic.
And then
Where'd you
I
go to college?
Cal State San Bernardino.
Fantastic. That's
Yes.
great. Well,
And
we
then-
have a team of people over here on your right. Linda Bardier and Ginger Ontiveros would be very much interested in getting to know who you are and
Thank
your
you.
information. So if you could please share that with them before you leave, that'd be fantastic.
And you didn't say where it's going to take place. What's the address? Or
Oh, I apologize. It's downtown San Bernardino at Court Street Square on the corner of E and Court Street in the parking lot. And again, we're from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. on November 22nd.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you. Board, those are all our public comments for this evening.
Okay, thank you. 8.1, San Bernardino Teachers Association.
Good evening again, members of the board, superintendent, and cabinet. My name is Ashley Vitas Alcala, president of the San Bernardino Teachers Association. This evening, I just have a couple of items I wanted to bring to your attention. The first one is a celebration. Most of you may recall teacher William Brashears from Salinas Elementary. He's been at this dais many times with his students, sharing quotes and other things that they've learned, poetry, does a lot of great things in his classroom. Well, he is being honored this Friday in Washington, D.C. by the NEA Foundation. He's one of 50 California Casualty NEA Foundation Teaching and Excellence awardees. And if you'd like to, you can live stream the event. It's starting 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. If you go to neafoundation.org, you can live stream it. You should be able to find it there on their website. And we are very excited that he's the only one from California who has been awarded that award. So
That's amazing.
wanted to bring that to your attention.
Right.
And I just wanted to thank you for the revision on the calendar. We just moved the professional development days, shifted them over one day. So thank you for reconsidering that and approving it tonight. And on another note, I did notice that at the last board meeting, you did adjourn in memory of one of our teachers who passed away, Erica Lopez. But I also wanted to let you know that this has been a rough year for our bargaining unit. So far, currently teaching, we've lost Brian Musso from Cole Elementary, Erica Lopez at Lytle Creek just last week, Jonathan Gillespie at Shannon Hills over Christmas break, Norma Brown from Bonnie Ole, and Mr. Pyle from San Andreas. So please keep their families and their staff in your hearts and prayers, and hopefully we will make it through the rest of the year with no more sadness.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. We keep those families in our prayers. Item 8.2, California School Employees Association.
Good evening. My name is Veronica Petta. I'm the first vice president for CSEA. I'm also the secretary at Emerton Elementary. Really, all we have to report at this time is that we are hoping that negotiations get underway soon and successfully. Obviously, you guys know that the e-board is kind of new, so we're doing a lot of trainings on weekends and time that we can together just to get ourselves situated and get ready to move forward. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Have
you.
a nice evening.
All right. Item 8.3, California Workers of America. A report. 8.4, San Bernardino School Police Officers Association. A report. 9.1, we are now at Student Achievement Multi-Tiered Systems of Support Presentation, Continuous Improvement. Dr. Marsden?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Monera, President. I want to welcome Dr. Monera and her team as they present, and I also wanted to call to your attention, we have a former superintendent, Matt Novel from Sanger Unified is with us as well. He's currently working with West Ed, and his expertise has been called upon to assist our team, and so good to see you, Mr. Novel. Thank you for being a part of our team and taking us to the next level. And with that, Dr. Monera and team, if you will, please make your presentation to the board.
Getting ourselves situated, our first time in the new boardroom, so getting ourselves organized here. All right, so good evening, Board President Rogers, Vice President Wyatt, board members, Dr. Marsden, Cabinet and Community. Tonight, we will be updating the board on how we have been developing the SBCUSD MTSS framework. Mr. Ramirez, my Director for Continuous Improvement, has been instrumental in leading this work, and so he will be sharing some of what we have been doing in collaboration with Mr. Matt Navo, who Dr. Marsden already introduced. He's our consultant that we've hired with West Ed. We are very fortunate to have Mr. Navo working with us. He brings a wealth of experience. As you heard, he's the past superintendent in Sanger Unified. He chaired the evidence-based practice selection of the special ed task force at the state level. The presentation we presented for special ed referenced that, One System for All, it's called. He's recently been appointed to the State Board of Education, and he is the chair for the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence. So we are very fortunate to have his expertise working with our teachers, our principals, and our district staff. Tonight, board, you will not hear an update on a KPI. That's not what this presentation is about. Rather, you will hear about how we are creating our framework of MTSS and the process that we're using for training and supporting schools throughout the district for systems improvement. If you can think about MTSS not as a noun, but as a verb, it's an action. It's what the adults are doing together to support students in academic, behavioral, and social emotional needs. And it's not just for students. Ultimately, a fully integrated MTSS system supports the students, supports our families, and supports our staff. So it is a very large endeavor. Next slide. So these are our outcomes for tonight. We will explain our MTSS framework, how it's being developed and deployed in SBCUSD. Our approach is slightly different than what you may be hearing in other districts because we're investing more time and resources into the training and the modeling of the process. Specifically, we're supporting our educators on how to refine their systems around collaboration, data-driven decision-making, and collective responsiveness when the data shows that additional supports are needed. Board, I'm sorry, I wanted to make sure. So your presentation is behind this this BC. Did everyone get that? I just realized that, okay. So that's our first outcome. Explain how the MTSS framework is being developed and deployed in SBCUSD. Our second outcome tonight is describe how the framework is being used at both the district level and the school level to positively impact our KPIs. And so thirdly, we have a school, Davidson Elementary. You heard from Davidson about a month ago. They're going to talk a little bit more about what they've been doing in terms of improving KPIs, specifically using the MTS framework as their support. I want to emphasize that this work, you're going to hear about it in terms of students, but it is work that is systems improvement for students, for families, and for our staff. And so we have this visual that you may see in different places as board members, and you can see that MTSS is an umbrella. And the purpose of the umbrella is to show that it's a true systems improvement process. It's about building the capacity of staff to use data to collaborate around academic needs, around behavioral needs, and around social emotional needs, making sure that all children are successful, that the families that we serve have their supports in place, and that they feel part of the community, and that our staff is also being supported. So when we achieve, because we're not there yet, but when we achieve a fully integrated MTSS framework, all our different supports will be in place. 80% of our staff, our students, our families will be successful with Tier 1, and then we will have additional supports along the way. So tonight, again, you're going to hear about process, not so much product. So you're not around programs. We're going to talk about how we're working together to make this happen. So let me tell you a little story. These pictures should look familiar to you. This is what Dr. Perez used last board meeting when she talked about the climate and culture at schools. So this young man in Tier 3, we're going to call him David. And so David is a young man who has some impulse challenges. In his elementary school, they have universal supports to create a safe, nurturing, and welcoming learning environment. That's what we call Tier 1. The school has school-wide behavioral expectations. They're reviewed daily. Incentives are provided for making the right choice, and community circles are used in all classrooms to promote school connectiveness and a sense of belonging. David participates and accesses all of these universal supports. And for 80% of the rest of the school population, this is adequate for all of them to feel like they are in a safe, nurturing, and welcoming learning environment. For David, that was sufficient from kindergarten through second grade. But when David started third grade, the data showed that he was starting to have a little bit more need. So he continued with the Tier 1, but he needed some strategic supports, and that's what we call Tier 2. And so a counselor came into the picture, the school counselor, and now starting in third grade, David started to participate in restorative circles so that they could discuss and help him manage his emotions, because remember he had some impulse challenges, right? And a behavior intervention plan was put in place where he daily had to check in and check out with the school secretary. And why the school secretary? Because that's someone who David connected with. So all of Tier 1 was in place for David, but in third grade, we saw that David needed additional supports. So now Tier 2 came into play. David's doing well with that second layer of supports, and he's progressing until the middle of fourth grade. And in the middle of fourth grade, all of a sudden, they are starting to notice, the school team is noticing that David is starting to receive high-level referrals from in the classroom when there's transition times, and from the playground, he's starting to be suspended more frequently than he ever had been. And so now it's time for some Tier 3. He continues with Tier 1, but that wasn't enough for David. As he got older, Tier 2 needed to be in place, and that was working for a while. But by the time he was in mid-fourth grade, the data showed that he had higher needs. And so then a partnership happened, and now David has a big buddy with Department of Behavioral Health, and that big buddy comes in and works with David, managing his impulses, teaching him new ways, and they do that through play therapy. So you can see now this is all a fictional storyboard. This doesn't, but I'm sure, I know that we have students in our schools that Tier 1 works sometimes, and then with time, data shows that they need Tier 2 and or Tier 3. When we have a fully integrated MTSS structure, all of our schools will know how to use the data in a way and collaborate around it to put the supports in place for students. So that's what we're working towards. I hope that gave you a picture of how this is ultimately going to impact KPIs down the road. I'm going to invite Mr. Navo up now, and he's going to speak on how we have been designing the MTSS around the work that's been happening throughout the state.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Martin. You're going to be the envy of all the superintendents in the state with this boardroom. It is beautiful. So it's just something to be incredibly proud of. It's an honor to work with your district and to work with your team, Dr. Manares and Aldo Ramirez. This means means a lot to me, so much so that I was willing to stay and be a part of your board meeting, even though many of you will be home before I even hit the 3rd hour on the road tonight. So I have 4.5 hours home, and it means a lot to me to be here. So I'm going to give you an overview of this briefly, how we actually get to a definition for you around MTSS. How do we as a state of California come to this place where you're even having this discussion in San Bernardino? The March 2015 report for the Special Education Task Force called out 2 evidence-based practices that the state of California should move to meet the needs of all students. One was universal design for learning as an instructional framework, and the other was multi-tiered systems of support. The reality was that we felt through the evidence-based practices section of that report that if schools had an understanding that multi-tiered systems was more than just RTI, they could apply the framework to what the needs of students are, as well as what the needs of staff are, as well as what the needs of the community are. And in doing so, they would layer supports on top of supports and on top of resources to enable the student and the staff and the community to access what they need. The idea was, and the reason this is so important, is the challenge was that in the state of California, we had 3 different definitions come out for multi-tiered systems of supports. You had CSESA come out with their definition. SUMS, who was funded by the state with $10 million, came out with their definition. And you had the California Department of Ed come out with their definition. So it's no wonder that the users in the system, you all, translated it into, this is everything we're already doing. And that's essentially what happened. What I appreciate about the approach that San Bernardino is using in this model is if you look at this definition, there is a lot packed into that definition. This is bigger than just applying strategy, structures, and resources and operations to solve problems. In fact, what Margaret Wheatley had referred to is that most organizations, when given an initiative of change, will simply strategize and attack structure, strategy, and operations. They hit what they deem above the green line. And a year later, they ask themselves, why isn't it working? What she argued in her research was that districts that attack what's below the surface, the underbelly of the organization, the identity of the organization, how information is exchanged within the organization, and most importantly, the relationships and connections that exist within the organization, that will promote positive and sustainable change. And so San Bernardino, in trying to attack this issue around building a multi-tiered system framework, has opted to start not by trying to quick solve it and direct to teachers what to do, what to use, and when to use it, rather to try to create a system whereby the framework itself can inform itself from the users, those that are in the system, and push up to the system what we need to get better at what we do. And so the layers of support in this model, what we had envisioned in the state of California was this: that a child's universal tier, just because they weren't successful in tier 1, didn't mean that tier 1 stopped and they went to tier 2. In other words, just because I didn't have successful in my general education classroom doesn't mean that I stop my general education instruction now for reading and go to another program in another place with another teacher. It meant that we layered it on So what we had envisioned was that a child or a student that was having trouble in their general education Tier 1 instruction would actually have that instruction and Tier 2 layered on top of that. And if that wasn't working, they would have Tier 1, Tier 2, and then Tier 3 level supports. But I think what's critically important in the work that's being done here in San Bernardino is what we had envisioned in the state of California with this work is something that has not been translated. And that was this, is take that same model and apply it over staff and your community. In other words, when you do that, you ask yourself different questions because you say, what does the staff need to meet the needs of students in Tier 1, both certificated and classified? Are we providing a level of training that is providing them the resources and strategies they need to meet the needs of students? And if for teachers who have students who may need more resources, when we layer that second layer, what else do we provide them? And what we found in the state of California, and the reason why we went here, was because when we asked that question, the most common person with students with special needs was the paraprofessional. They spent the most time with the student with special needs and often received the least amount of support and training. And so we envisioned that in this model, we'd begin to ask those questions and we would layer these supports. So it's an honor to do this work with you. I can tell you that in a district with 50,000 plus students, this is a very, very heavy lift. And I appreciate the level of involvement from your team as well as your deputy superintendents and your assistant superintendents who have made a point in their busy schedules to come and find out what it is we're trying to do. And I also appreciate your union representation. She is incredibly busy, but every moment that she has, she is there contributing to the conversation. Everybody in this system wants to see this work. And so I thank you for letting me be a part of this journey, and I thank you for letting me be part of the work.
And before you leave, I think we have a question, so what we'll do is, I think there's not that many slides left. We'll start, Dr. Flores. You can go this way.
Thank you for your presentation. I am a systems person. I'm a retired university professor, 40 years, 38 to 40 years, teacher, educator, and literacy person, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm fascinated by what you just described, and I just want to clarify that if I understood you correctly, that this means all stakeholders have to participate and be willingly committed to this system's, or otherwise it doesn't go.
All stakeholders.
All stakeholders, board members, all cabinet, assistant soups, our principals, our directors, our, classified, certificated. Otherwise, it does not work.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's right.
And how do you secure this commitment by everyone?
There's a couple of ways, but you really have to touch the core to the identity of the organization. You really have to redefine what the identity of the organization is around what it believes. And what we're finding in this work with this team is that they have an identity that they want to achieve, and uncovering and removing the barriers to get there is a challenge. And so when we think about MTSS framework, I would encourage that you think about the MTSS framework from the boardroom to the classroom. So how does the user's voice at the classroom level penetrate the system enough that it's lifted to you as a board who are incumbent upon making decisions around the allocation of resources and supports?
Yeah, it's not only allocation, it's follow-up in terms of, like you said, the paraprofessional who
Right.
doesn't get the support. I mean, it entails follow-up, it entails really making sure that everyone's on board, there's communication, there's, and who it is, it's our kids, right? It's our kids' welfare and well-being, and it's not just academic, it's their social emotional, it's also related to their family, et cetera, et cetera. But have you found that people try to sabotage it by saying yes and really not participating?
I find that So I have the luxury of doing this work now in my new role with all 50 states, working with all 50 special ed directors across the country. And I will find that when they say yes, they don't understand what that yes actually committed them to. So they believe in their mind that they have a perception of what MTSS actually obligates them to until they realize it's bigger.
They come to know it as they do it. I just, I believe you. I just know that sometimes, people fall through the cracks, all kinds of things happened, and the example you gave us, Dr. Menares, is a very important example, but we have a lot of children like that, and we have a lot of families that are concerned about their special needs, and we also have a very diverse population. A lot of Latino kids are overrepresented, but also do not get the services that they're needed throughout the state.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was just, hopeful that we as a community embrace this all together, and that we support it so that our kids will benefit from it. And this board is very committed to our community, to our staff, to everyone, and we just sometimes get frustrated because we don't see enough movement.
Yes.
And we don't see enough, I want to see action.
I can tell you, you are right on around the tension on this issue. The tension with MTSS across the state is the time and the results and the demand for solutions.
Right. And I hope that our cabinet is on board and is committed, and also all our departments participate, not just a few, but all our departments are on board. And how do we get that commitment? I'm just saying it rhetorically. I hope we have ways of having people commit and actually do what they believe and say, not just say and believe. And but anyway, thank you very much. And I want to tell you that I'm from Madera, so I know exactly where Sanger is. And we used to beat you guys in football.
All the time, probably.
Yeah. But anyway, I thank you so much for your expertise.
No,
commitment.
it's just a pleasure being with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So don't leave us, don't leave the, yes, there's a question. Ms. Medina? So, Dr. Hill? Okay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
You want to wait till then? You're good, okay.
I mean, I'm happy to wait.
Okay, so perfect. So we just have a few more slides, and then, thank you so much.
Thank you.
But don't leave the building yet. All right.
He's not abandoning us.
All right, continue on, thank you.
So, Dr. Flores, a lot of, or much of what you said, I don't want the board by any means to think that we are done with this work. We're just getting started. So there's a lot of layers to it, but what I did not mention previously was we have an executive team at the district level. And so Mr. Navo mentioned some of the members of the executive team. We call it the MTSS executive team or our improvement team. We'll talk about that a little bit later on how our schools are feeding the improvement team information that ultimately will come to cabinet, then we'll bring to you.
Are all our departments represented?
Yes, and so
every single one?
We have, yes, it is a cross-divisional. So we have people from throughout the district. At the district level, we have school-level principals that we just added this year because we saw at the end of last year that was a missing piece, and we have SBTA represented.
And parents?
Not yet, not parents, not yet. But that doesn't mean that down the road we won't. We've got to kind of take care of some things internally first, and as we get better at that, and then we're ready to take it broader, we will.
I hope we also get
Okay.
county people.
Okay, so we're going to hold the questions.
Yes, I'll
and
keep,
then-
I'll keep
and then
going.
we'll
I just
go
wanted
get-
to,
so we
because
can-
I had forgotten to say that we have this team that's very important to this work. So, also in reference to what Dr. Flores was saying, we now have, as a cabinet, established our theory of action. And so many times you hear Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Perez talk about building the capacity of our principals and our classroom teachers to deliver the best instructional program. Well, we have a visual for that now, and this is the way the theory of action reads. So we believe, so you start at the top of the circle and you go down. We believe if we build the instructional leadership around effective and equitable instructional practices, strengthen capacity building systems through highly collaborative teams, that's where the MTSS comes in, highly collaborative teams, and focus on adult learning by learning to improve versus learning to solve, then all students will achieve success. So in this theory of action, what we believe is we work on building the capacity of our site leaders as well as our district leaders to provide these educational and equitable practices. They then in turn work with their teams at the school level and at the district level to be a collaborative team using data to improve systems rather than data to point fingers. Then we will have a system by which our students will achieve and our parents will achieve and our staff will achieve. And so that's what we're working towards. It's a very aspirational vision, and the MTSS will get us there. And so when you look at this multi-tiered layers, that's tier one. When all of our systems, all of our teams are working collaboratively using data to improve systems, our tier one will be very high functioning. And then we can work on tier two and tier three. So that is our goal, that is our theory of action, and we are committed to making that happen each and every day for all of our stakeholders, and we're doing that in collaboration with all the other divisions. So how does this work at a school level? So let me explain the flow of communication. And then Mr. Ramirez will give an example of something that just happened today, actually, right? So this is how we've got these cohorts of schools. Well, and you have a list of the cohorts in front of you. And the schools have their school teams. So a school team can be a grade level team. It can be your climate and culture team. It might be your department. That's a school team, right? And that school team is using data to look at how students are progressing academically or behaviorally. And then they might come across a systems improvement at the school level that they're saying, hey, we've got a barrier here to getting the success we want for students. They then inform their school level MTSS team. So the cohort schools have school level MTSS teams. Those MTSS teams, which they consist of teachers and the site principal and the counselor, they're a variety of people. They're working specifically with us, West Ed, and our MTSS executive team to improve their systems. We'll hear from Davidson on how they're doing that. The MTSS school teams then inform the district executive team. And the district executive team looks for and listens for common trends, common system barriers that then that executive team says, okay, we need to improve on this. We're hearing across our 8 out of the 11 schools that we've started working with that we have a barrier around gathering data for suspension, for example. Then the district team comes together, and now they're trying to figure out how do we improve this system. And once they have a response that they think will improve the system, then they will be informing Cabinet. And Cabinet will decide, okay, is this a board policy need? Is this a fiscal need? We'll decide on what's needed based off of the information we get from, I don't know whose phone that is. Based off of the information that we receive from the schools. What's mom? So you can see how this systems improvement starts from the school level and it goes up through the district. And then once Cabinet makes some kind of decision, maybe it's a board policy change, maybe it's a change in fiscal allocation, then we would then inform the school of that change. So you can see the flow of communication starts from the classroom teams and it funnels up to the district. The schools are improving their systems as well as informing district of the district improvement that's needed. And so Mr. Ramirez will give an example of what that's looking like right now.
So thank you, Dr. Morales. Good evening, Madam President, Vice President Wyatt, board members. So to highlight this user-informed system and how it works to continually improve the structures across our entire system, I want to highlight the work that is going on right now in the area of early literacy. As a district, a variety of teams and schools have been working diligently on finding ways to improve early literacy outcomes for our students. The school site teams are an important component of this work and a critical source of information for our system. These teams have come together to reflect on what they are learning about the impact of the strategies they are using with their own students. During this time, they systematically work on their own site decision-making as well as on developing observations and about the system-wide structures and supporting the system-wide structures that are supporting their work, and on crafting recommendations for making the structures better for the district. The school teams provide their information to administrators and the MTSS school teams. Administrator reps then bring this information to the MTSS executive team. We had one of these executive team meetings today. Due to the conversation that we had at the executive team, MTSS executive team, with our representatives, we now have observations and recommendations for our district-wide data systems around early literacy and about our instructional materials. The MTSS executive team today has taken that information and identified a couple of areas of further study. The results of this study should help us make systems adjustments and recommendations to our cabinet for making everything better throughout the system and for our schools. So we're really excited about continuing to make improvements in our district systems using this type of approach. We find it very valuable. And we're excited about continuing to help schools develop processes like these at their own sites as well. And this brings me to our plan for training, scalability, and sustainability at the school site level. So, as Dr. Monades mentioned, you have in your packet the name of our first 2 cohorts of schools that we are supporting through this MTSS process and integration. So this is a phased-in approach. Over the past year and a half, a cross-departmental and division team, along with West Ed, has been able to work with 24 of our schools to implement the MTSS continuous improvement processes. 11 schools crafted their plans last year and have worked on implementation this year. And 13 schools are currently working on their plans for next year with our teams. We have worked, once again, with a total of 24 schools so far, and including elementary and middle schools. We will continue to incorporate schools over the next 3 years so that all schools have been guided in integrating the MTSS continuous improvement process. And with that, I would like to invite Principal Brianna York from Davidson. As we mentioned before, you may recognize her from a recent presentation. Brianna will speak a little bit about Davidson's experience as a Cohort 1 school, MTSS school. Specifically, she will highlight for you how the MTSS structures support growth in areas that are beyond academics this evening as well.
Good evening, President Rogers, Vice President Wyatt, Dr. Marsden, Board, Cabinet members. My name is Brianna York, and I'm the principal at Davidson Elementary School. I'm honored to be back to highlight some of the work that has taken place as a result of the MTSS pilot opportunity and the outcomes that prove we are heading in the right direction. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of presenting with the Ed Services team our 3rd grade DRA outcomes and our work around systems and data management to reshape our professional learning and Tier 1 instruction and supports. As previously mentioned, upon arriving at Davidson during the 2017-18 school year, the leadership team worked very closely to look at current and past student and staff achievement data to determine how we would proceed with Davidson's instructional plan for both adults and students on campus. We recognized that there was a significant achievement gap amongst our African American student population in the area of reading. Data also showed that this student group had a high number of suspensions coupled with a school-wide dip in our student sense of belonging. As a result, we devised a 3-year plan for addressing social-emotional learning through professional learning and systems evaluation and change. Tonight, I'd like to expand on the work our pilot team has completed specifically around Tier 1 supports with establishing social-emotional learning opportunities and how building relationships with our families has strengthened our Tier 1 academic and behavior instruction. Davidson staff has committed to a 3-year plan around social emotional learning and mindfulness practices, moving from a zero-tolerance approach to including restorative practices within our Tier 1 instruction. One way we do this is through our morning meetings. Each day, our students and staff begin their day by greeting each other, sharing on a given topic, and participating in a group team-building activity. This format allows students the opportunity to practice social emotional learning skills such as self-awareness and self-management. This year, our staff and students are focusing on social awareness in order to build a sense of belonging. Adult professional learning and implementation of social emotional learning and mindfulness practices using morning meetings has resulted in dramatic decline of high-level office referrals and suspensions. Compared to this time last year, we have seen a decline from 40 high-level office referrals to just 18. Furthermore, our suspensions have declined from 6 this time last year to 0 year-to-date. We are confident that these outcomes are a result of first, good instruction. But we know that this work cannot be done in isolation. Rather, it is critical that we have parents as partners. As part of our Tier 1 academic and behavior support system, we make it a priority to involve and create a sense of belonging with our parents as well. One way we do this is by increasing parent events on campus. These events include parent picnics, donuts with dads, muffins with moms, student performances, and even monthly pep rallies. But what we're most proud of is our academic parent-teacher team meetings. These quarterly evening meetings involve parents directly with their child's academic and social emotional well-being. The meeting begins with an icebreaker in order for parents to be able to connect and build relationships amongst themselves. Staff then guides parents in the review of individual student data in both ELA and math. Parents are given the opportunity to set a 60-day student achievement goal to work with their child at home. Next, based off of trend data from the ELA and math diagnostics, staff choose one skill to focus to make a make-and-take activity with parents. They are also given the opportunity to practice this activity before taking it home to play with their child. We are happy to report that because of our parent involvement efforts, our Family Panorama survey results from this year have shown increases in the area of setting a positive climate, with 89% of our families answering favorably, including 95% of our African American families.
Yes.
Monitoring student success was another area in which 88% of our families answered favorable, including 100% of our African American families. Last, in the area of school climate, 85% of our families answered favorable, including 92% of our African American families. We are intentionally continuing our MTSS pilot team work by holding weekly success team meetings in order to monitor students, coach staff, provide recommendations for intervention, and have data-rich conversations around students receiving Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 academic and behavior supports. To conclude, the MTSS pilot work allowed our team to streamline our tiered system of supports for staff, students, and families to build both academic and socially, emotionally well-being, and we look forward to the continuous outcomes that we will see in the future. Thank you.
Well done. Good job. That is great data.
I was just saying I need to jump up and give her a hug right now, but I'll control myself. Because that's exactly what we're looking for, right, board? So you can hear in what Ms. York just shared, you hear a lot of conversation around data, and you hear the adults collaborating around that and problem solving, because we're the ones who need to figure this out for our students. But ultimately, it gets down to the children and the families that we serve. And so they are doing such a wonderful job in just a year's time of really turning and using data to make informed decisions and getting the results in a very short amount of time. So I just want to commend Davidson Elementary for just doing such a great job for our community and our students. And so what are our next steps? Well, as a district team, our executive team, we will be finalizing our tiered supports and really outlining what that looks like: academic, behavioral, social, emotional needs for the children, for the families, and for staff. And then we'll have a document, and then we'll be refining that every year because it will not be stagnant. We'll finalize our SBCUSD MTSS Framework Reference Guide, is what we're calling it. We want it to have protocols, procedures, procedures and practices really around how do you look at data, what does the collaboration look like, sound like, how does decision-making happen, not as a you must do this and that, but more about guidelines, right? Because every school has its own unique context. We want to continue to scale and refine the improvement process at the school and district level. You heard the cohort model that we're going about, and it's been very successful. And the benefit of a cohort is cohort one were the people who were very excited about it, right? So they're our cheerleaders. They've been very successful, and now we've got more schools coming on without us having to ask many to join. So that's very much a positive. And the last next step is we want to continue to share practices between our cohort and our non-cohort schools, because as we improve our systems, we still have quite a few years before all of our schools are on board. So that reference guide will really help to support the schools that are not part of the cohorts yet, but they can use some of those tools. And so that's our next steps. There's much to be done still, and we will note to start embedding our parents into this work as we get further along in it, absolutely. And so I want to close, here's that visual again, that MTSS is an umbrella of systems improvement around academics, behaviors, social, emotional support. So we're meeting the needs of all our children, and all means all, not some, not 95%, the goal is all. And then the people underneath, those are our parents, those are our staff members, those are all the adults that interact to create this system for our students. And so the executive team has developed what they call a compelling message, and I'd like to read it to you so that you can see that this is where they're going. And the compelling message is, so that we have schools that are performing just like Davidson, we believe that every student has unique gifts and needs. Every student deserves to thrive in academic and civic environments. Every employee, family, and community member shares responsibility for an integrated system of supports. And that's what we're working to do with the MTSS framework. And so now we open it up to questions.
Thank you for your presentation. So we are going to pick back up with Mr. Gallo and Mr. Tillman and work our way back around.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, great report, and really love hearing the great things that are happening at Davidson too. Can you share maybe a little more level of detail on how students are identified for these various levels of support, and how we ensure that we're on it as early as possible so that we, create intervention strategies for each one of these kids so they don't have to wait till the end of the year till they take a test and then we find out, oops, and they're off to the next class before we actually, intervene here. So how do we ensure a really timely, almost immediate reaction and intervention?
So our schools, I'll use cohort number 1 schools. So they chose different areas of data sets that they were using to practice learning how to use the data to inform decisions. So let's say, for example, if they chose academics and early literacy specifically, then the data that they're going to be using is the DRA, are the DRA results as well as the benchmarks. And then each team would also have their internal data set that they would choose to look at. It might be a star reading that the school might choose to use, or that grade level team. They might be using DIBELS. So each data set is going to be dependent on what the school has decided is going to be their piece of data that they're going to look at. But the goal is, for example, early literacy. So let's say a school chose DIBELS. That's a reading fluency assessment. So then the school would be looking at, and only our cohort schools, Mr. Gallo, because we're training up staff. Some schools are very good at this without the training, but not every school, right? So I want to be clear that we're talking cohort schools right now. They would use DIBELS in their grade level meetings. Remember that Mondays they have MOU time, so depending on their professional development calendar, the school would have time by which they're looking at the data. Say everyone gave the assessment on X day, then we're going to look at the data maybe a week later, so that gives everyone time to have analyzed it. And then the team is talking about which students are at grade level, which ones are showing that they have a different need, what is that need, and then what are we going to do about that, and then they respond. So each data set is different, and each school is using different data sets for different reasons. But that's what it looks like.
And they're individualized. I mean, they ultimately get down to each individual students and their
Yes.
needs, and you create a intervention strategy, so to speak, based on cohort. I agree with that.
Yes, so it's very much this visual right here, starting with the school teams.
Yeah, that Makes sense.
That's where the power sits, and then the school teams inform so grade level team then informs the MTSS, so
Great.
that's a school level,
Great,
yes.
sounds like you guys really have thought about this. That's great.
And it's,
Really
it's
great.
what educators do on a regular basis. We're just systematizing it more.
Nice. Love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Tillman? Dr. Wyatt? Dr. Hill?
I just want to say thank you for such a great presentation for you and your team, Dr. Menares. I'm just so impressed. Of course, I was impressed when I saw all means all, because that's usually not the case. But I kind of got from your presentation, you said what you meant. And then from the principal, actually gave facts to validate what you said, all means all. I was just really impressed. I just encourage you to continue and just remind everyone out there, and I know we all have the best interests of our young people at heart. You don't always know how to deal with it, but as long as you're there and leading that effort, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for the great presentation.
Ms. Dr. Flores?
Yes, I want to thank you for the presentation. It was very invigorating. And I want to thank you, Ms. York, for all your work and your leadership. I'm commending you on your staff and all the work that you're doing. And this is what we want everybody to do. It's a lot of work, so I know you probably don't sleep very much. And but it's really, really, really key. And just thank you. And hopefully, as we move forward, we'll have many Davidsons as we move forward. I only have like 3 recommendations. One, getting back to what Mr. Navo said. It's important for everybody to be present. If people are missing from your meetings, even though they have commitment, they're missing out. So I hope that you stress they have to be present at all times, and that there's follow-up with people that aren't present when you're conducting all of the system-wide expectations and follow-up. My next recommendation is just, because I'm a theoretician and I'm in a cerebral, on slide 7, you said theory of action. Just want you to think about, it's just rhetorical recommendation, theory in action. That's actually what you're doing. It's theory in action, which is called praxis. And so that theory is manifested in the action, and that's what we want to get to. So it's internalized, and then it's one, right? This is what we're doing. So that's a recommendation.
Thank you.
My last recommendation is on slide 8, and it's not a big criticism, but you left one important component out, and that's the board. Improving systems and outcomes, getting better. You said that everybody was included, and we are ultimately the ones, you guys are on the ground, but we also are the ones that provide allocate the resources, the supports, and so we need to be added onto that line right
Absolutely.
there. over
Right
here.
after cabinet, huh?
Right
needs to
after
go.
cabinet,
Right,
yes, right. So those are my recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Medina.
I just wanted to say thank you for this. This was really something I think we've been wanting for a while, and that the fact that you're creating this and you're starting it, I think we're moving definitely in the right direction. And I think this is also a model that other districts are going to start to come down once they see how we're improving. So I'm so glad that our district is spearheading this. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you again for the presentation. Always, it's like music to my ears when we're going directly to where the problem is and trying to lift it up, because we know that there are students that have still fallen through the cracks, but when we close these type of gaps, it will have amazing results. So thank you all for your hard work. Thank you for coming again for a cameo. We'll probably bring you back again. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to item 10.1, board members, and I will start with Mr. Tillman. It's board member comments. None, okay, Mr. Gallo.
Yeah, I just wanted to, if you get by San Andreas High School, you'll see a great greenhouse that's gone up, and they're getting really close to finishing this, the project that we've been kind of, the board, of course, has endorsed and is anxiously awaiting to be invited to a grand opening, which ought to happen pretty soon. And there's a data point on this. As you know, they have a student-run business. It's called Quake Innovators. That's and they got a number of businesses under this. And kind of their mindset is, we're shaking things up here at San Andreas, right? The Quakes being their name. And they proposed, actually, and I think it's a great idea for the board to have two tower gardens, which you probably have seen this at either end of our entrances. You may have seen it at the PDC, Professional Development Center, up there, and it really is an eye-catcher piece. And I'd like to propose that we fund $1,600 for annual, so that the students come out, maintain it, keep the thing fresh, full of whatever greens that they want to do, and put one at each exit here. So maybe we could add that for consideration at some point in time to show our support of our career pathways. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo, and I did see those when we were up at the PDC the other night. Mr. Wyatt, or Dr. Wyatt?
Thank you, Madam President, and I think Mr. Gallo was kind enough to let me also talk about that program and to actually acknowledge Janie and her team, and I think Joe's in the house as well as Tom, and that particular program you're talking about, Mr. Gallo, was also recognized in American Schools and University magazine as being one of the top designs in regards to outstanding design for San Andreas High School Grow and Hope program. So I believe they were telling me it was only one of 8 high schools, I think, in California or United States, that was recognized for such a program. So I think that's so that's such an amazing recognition just for them to be seeing that program. That's 2 years in a row, by the way, I think it is. Last year we had our theater at Indian Springs High School, so just an amazing job to our folks, what they're doing there, and the schools that they're producing and programs are obviously at a national quality, and that's right here in San Bernardino. Last night, a number of us, myself and Dr. Hill, Madam President Gwen Rogers, were again honoring our folks for the Golden Bell recognition that they had by County Office of Ed, San Maria County Office Superintendent of Schools, and Mr. Alejandro and his folks. And just want to say thank you again to Mary Pierce and Morgan, did I say her name right? Bellaterra. Okay, thank you. And the rest of our folks that were there that, again, were representing San Diego City in just an amazing light. And I will say I thought they had the best display out of the 5 Golden Bell winners last night. I got to throw that in there, too. And then at the San Diego County Office of Ed board meeting yesterday, we were able to recognize, again, with Dr. Hill, Principal Ruth Curry at Fairfax Elementary, and Miss Gail Henry and Miss Marty Goss at Hillside Elementary for their ongoing Living Museums and Black History programs. And as we heard tonight, too, as well as I want to make sure we acknowledge Miss Houston at Lyle Creek Elementary. So a lot of great things happening, as we know, in our district, and just want to acknowledge all of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hill?
Thank you, Madam President. I was able to scratch off a couple of things, so thank you, Dr. Wyatt. But I just want to share that last week I had an opportunity to have a personal tour with Ryan Rainbow at Garner Holt. And I was just so fascinated with their new setup as much as I hated seeing them leave San Bernardino, at least you can walk through. There's a lot of space, but a lot of educational things going on. And they even have programs. So, of course, when I met with him, he had 150 students coming from Etiwanda, and they've had people to come in for their education program throughout, outside of California. So, of course, my question was, well, how are we doing in San Bernardino? And he said, I'm not getting anybody, and I want to. He said, you know, I graduated from San Gorgonio, and Garner graduated from Pacific. We want to see our students take advantage of what we're doing. So I don't know what that means, except a lot of things our students are missing out on. Today I had an opportunity to go to the Girls in Sports event that was held at the National Orange Show. And Common Brand has done a great job. There must have been 2,000 girls in sports throughout San Bernardino and Riverside counties. It was a heck of an event for those young people. As I was getting ready to leave, one of the athletic directors came up to me and said, I don't think we can thank the board enough for the support we have gotten for the athletic department, that students are happy about coming to school and they're motivated and, and doing great things. And I shared with them that's what we want students to do, run to school, not run away from it. The other thing at Cal State, Dr. Enrique Murillo is heading the ethics studies, and I got a chance today to see their outline. I don't know which assistant superintendent is over this, but they listed people who would be on the, that they have identified to work with improving and having a better ethics studies program for our students, but it did not include our two teachers. So I'm hoping we can get our two teachers involved in that. Saturday had, it was such an enjoyable day at seeing the students being honored at the Black Honor Roll, and also of the educational events at the Black Expo. This coming Saturday, February the 8th, we will be having our Black History Bee at the Feldheim Library. It's all day from 9 until a little after 3. You get a chance to stop by. And while the presentation was going on, I just want to give accolades to Dr. Greer. I had a chance last week to go to his presentation, and I noticed all these people were there from different departments, and I realized the importance of, when it comes to educating our students, it takes the village, and the village was there because parents were able to talk to people in HR, they were able to talk to people about English language learners, about community engagement. So it was the whole, everything was in that room, and the exposure was there. And I just want to commend him on his leadership and what he's doing for our district, especially our students, our staff, and our parents. So thank you so much. And my final is, we do not say enough how much we appreciate the staff, certificated, classified, cabinet, superintendent, and board members. We all work hard for the same reason, and I just want to say to all of you, I applaud you for the good work you're doing. I have not been able lately, and I keep looking, to drive around this city and find a school that I can say, oh my gosh, look at that. I can smile, they look good, and I just commend you. Thank you so much.
Dr. Flores?
Yes, I wanted to ask Dr. Hill, what did Garner Holt say that he wanted to do with our district?
Well, I didn't meet with Garner Holt. He wasn't there. I
Oh.
wanted to go in to say thank you. He
To
wasn't
Rainbow,
there.
to Ryan?
Well, I was asking Ryan because all these students, just about every day, they have 150 students from a district there that they're teaching them the robotics and things of that nature. So, of course, I want to know
Right.
who you're hearing from here, and he's really not. And there's no blame, I'm not pointing the fingers, it's just that,
Well,
once I saw it, I
right.
just feel we need to take
Right.
advantage of it.
I agree with you because I know that our Royal Valley students in the summer were there for a week, but it was just a few. And Ryan proposed, a proposal, and they wanted to do a big pathway. And I think we as a board should probably consider that and do it as a special project so that we do have that commitment. I know Royal Valley has been working with them. I don't know to what capacity, because it's always about resources and so forth. So I agree with you.
That was just.
Right.
Yeah, not working.
Right. But I think they want to include lots of our schools, and they're right here. And he wants to invest in us, so I agree with you. In terms of ethnic studies, on March, I just wanted to follow up with you, on March 24th, they're going to hold ethnic studies workshop at Cal State San Bernardino in the San Manuel Center all day. So I just signed up. I don't know, board, if you guys want to go. I saw, Margaret, that you also responded that you were signing up, but I signed up also. Last night, when you guys were at the Golden Bells, I was at our PDC supporting our Tasha and all staff on the District Literacy Day. That's going to occur at San G on March 7th. Should mark your calendars. It's going to be a great event. They're just doing incredible stuff to bring literacy and biliteracy to our community, our teachers, et cetera. So again, March 7th at San G. I want to thank Chief Paulino for your board correspondence on the surveillance system upgrades and what you've done. I would also, I think I did ask also, what else do you need? I asked, if you don't mind, just what are the needs? I know you told me that you're doing this stuff, but I wanted to know what the other needs are for our schools in terms, you just talked about the replacements. I wanted to know what more we need to make our schools safer. Dr. Volkemer, that's one of my questions. I want to thank Dr. Mitchell for the BC on the visual and performing arts. Our kids are really knocking it out of the park. It's just wonderful. I think that it's, I just love that they're doing that, and from jazz to our mariachi, and I hope that we get more kids involved in the mariachi. I saw that was only 8, so I don't know if it's because it's at a elementary school. I don't know about the middle school or high school kids, how we attract them. I'd like to know, I'd like to go visit them and see what else they need. I also appreciated the BC on the item analysis, Dr. Mitchell. My only question is, I would ask, once the teachers start doing this, I would like to know what their response is to it, and if it's, if they have any other suggestions or recommendations, is it helping them? Are they able to target the kids? Just listening to Dr. Monaitis and TSS, where they target the kids. I would think that would be what we're doing, systematically as well in math and in language arts. So those are my comments, and I just echo what Dr. Hill said. We have a great staff. We have a great cabinet. You work 24/7 sometimes, so appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Medina?
Right, well, I just wanted to mention that I want to congratulate Joseph Reed on being, it's called the Human Rights Campaign 2020 Youth Ambassador. We're very proud of this young man, and he was actually featured on their website along other students, so I think this is something that I'm hoping that maybe Superintendent Marsden can add to his highlights for the district. I think is it a weekly report, or what do you do for them? Yes, and so that way we're able to highlight students in all aspects, especially this one here that I haven't seen much. It wasn't shared on Facebook or social media, especially when you have students that are student ambassadors for large organizations in the nation. So this would be something we can try to share, as well as added to Dr. Marsden's, is it the weekly?
E-News link, and we'll
Yes, yes.
publicize it on social
All
media.
right, thank you. And do you know which one I'm talking about? It's the Joseph Reed with the HRC's 2020 Youth Ambassadors.
I'll look it up.
Okay, good, okay, and I can send you a screenshot of it as well. And I just want to mention today, yesterday ballots went out, and this is something that I'm trying to see how we can try to help our students become civically engaged. Election day is March the 3rd, and honestly, when you see our high school students and they're in school, is there a way where we can help advocate or push for high school students that are able to vote while they're in school, and maybe providing a way for them to vote? Because I know that many students are there early, stay after school programs, go home, and they may not have the chance to vote. So I'm curious if we're able to find some ways for them to vote.
We'll look into that, but I do know we do quite a bit around educating students, registering them, pre-registering them.
Yes, but then just knowing, just having a way for them to actually go vote.
Sure.
Especially since they'll be in school, and hopefully we can help support them in that way, in that area.
Encourage them to register absentee.
So that's part of the education I think Dr. Marsden is referring to, is just making sure that they understand, and then helping them to understand the being civically engaged. And I do appreciate Teamsters Kathleen that came down, Brennan, regarding labor studies, and then I want to try to look at how we can incorporate that labor studies with civic engagement. In reality, there are many families out there that are struggling through not knowing their rights, through the labor laws and so forth. So I know this by personal experience, how there are some companies that do take advantage of individuals. And so I think this would be a great way for them to understand at least their rights, and also help educate their parents in case they see that their parents are struggling in a certain way and being taken advantage of. So I would like to look into that labor studies as incorporating civic engagement with it. Thank you.
Dr. Flores?
Yes, I wasn't going to mention anything about the labor, but there is curriculum by Howard Zinn on the people's history of the United States that highlights the significant role in labor unions throughout our history. And it's people, the working class, who did the struggle. I'll say it again, Howard Zinn, The People's History of the United States. I wanted to add, Dr. Monitis, to just look into the use of DIBELS. It's really a very deficit-oriented assessment, and I can provide you the critique of it, so that, because it doesn't really truly measure where the kids are, but it's very deficit, so the kids would come out, not knowing things. So I just want you to look at the quality of that instrument. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to add to Ms. Medina, I had spoke to ICUC today, and it came up again because, we have those 2 times where we rally around when they can pre-register. But I did task the youth, and maybe, again, they can reach out to you and I or both. But I shared with them that if we can get some of the students in the student groups that are on the campuses, that we can educate them, and then they can take the lead and educate. So they kind of like that idea. So I think we need to revisit with them just to let them know that they can also take a lead in, helping each other. So we just spoke about that. So,
I like
I
that,
know they
yes.
talked to you as well, but
Yes.
they can reach out, and then maybe, and I asked them to come up with the ideas and let us know.
Right,
So-
and then coming from students themselves is very
Exactly.
powerful.
Exactly.
That would be great.
That would be good. And then I want to thank Ms. Christakos for helping me. I did meet also with ICUC in reference to our green and clean energy efforts, and a lot of things, as I shared, we have already done and are doing with the district. And the ask was, and the formal ask was, I did share this with her already, but so that when we do, there is a presentation somewhat that's coming up soon where we are going to have a presentation of a check or something like that. But at that time, if we can just update, or that will be the time to invite them to come and see again why we're receiving those rebates or those type of things. So is that, it's okay?
We'll be recognized for our energy achievements
Okay.
and just discussions about cost avoidance through our
Okay.
efforts.
Excellent.
Recognition of our, of several things that are going on, so that would be a great.
And I think that would be a great time, and we will invite them down. Also, Dr. Flores made a correction also for the records. The students do want to go back to number 2, correct? That was their preference. They kind of, before they left, they kind of dialed back and said they wanted to go back to the number 2 option. So I wanted to make sure that all the board members were aware of that. Also, in meeting with some of the community members, our parent centers, and it was kind of brought to my attention, I don't know what the formula or the format, but in some cases, they're in the back of the school. And so I think if we can look at that, if we're going to have parent centers, or we're calling them welcome centers, the parents shouldn't have to go to the back of schools as though they're not invited. We've talked many, many years about welcoming environments. And so if they're welcome, they should be welcome somewhere centrally, you know, when they're coming in to work inside of these particular centers. So if you can just make a note of that, is there any uniformity? Because I was asked the question, where are they? And then they began to tell me about where they were. I want to ask the policy committee please revisit the cell phone policy. We were required, or are required, to make some sort of decision. So hopefully you're talking about that cell phone policy on campus. Also want to formally put it on there. I know Mr. Tillman mentioned, but we do want to make sure about the question that came up about the options and the opting out and then wanting to be a part of the magnet school. You want to add something to that, Mr. Tillman? But we want to make that formally put there, that we look into that, because that is really important, because we wanted inclusion. Also want to, I had a couple of students and a parent mention to me that Rio Vista, which is a school that my students went to, have a chess club that maybe needs a little bit of support. I know chess is very, very, I remember when my kids were at Rio Vista, they went away, all the way to Los Angeles and competed. And so chess is, if they're interested, it is great, but it sounds like they might need a little bit of support. So if we can please look into that. And those are my comments. Thank you. We will now move to 10.2. Superintendent?
Thank you, Madam President. And several things to mention. First, wanted to welcome, you may have seen him sit here in the front. His name was Jason Miller, the staff reporter for Highland Community News. He is the new education reporter, and he mentioned to me that he's going to be publishing some written work from one of our first graders at Thompson Elementary School, because the principal Sandoval and their team has been leading a writing celebration where first grader Genesis Boyd her piece will be selected on her special item. It's very well written. I'd read it to you tonight, but I don't want to spoil what will be in the paper. But he's very impressed by the fact that these first graders are writing whole paragraphs regularly, and their writing is getting to a very high standard because of that effort. So just thought I'd mention that. And then Mr. Hector Hernandez, who was here previously, is now the editor for the community news. So it's kind of neat to see him move up. Also want to congratulate Salinas Elementary School teacher William Bashirs. You heard Ashley mention him earlier, selected as winner of the NEA's Association Foundation Awards for Teaching Excellence. Very proud of him and that recognition in DC. I also want to recognize Manuel Salinas Creative Arts Academy for being recognized as a 2020 California Distinguished Schools awardee. The program will take place this coming Monday, February 10th, and board. It's in Anaheim. And if any of you are interested in attending and or need to have arrangements made for accommodations, Ms. Cunningham or Ms. Cross can assist with that. Are there up to 3 of you or any of you that might be interested in joining Manuel Salinas' team in receiving this award this coming Monday? Is any one of you available to join them in that? This is over at Anaheim Disneyland Hotel. Dr. Wyatt, thank you. Anyone else that might be able to Ms. Rogers?
I'd be able to do a flyover, Dale. That will be
Thanks.
flight testing. Yeah.
Sounds good.
I
Thank
would
you.
go, but we're celebrating my mom's 97th birthday.
You need to
on
be there for
Saturday,
that. No
yeah.
problem.
Otherwise, I would have gone.
No problem. And then also, Board, just so you're aware, on March 12th, I'll be traveling to Sacramento along with Ginger Ontiveros and our student board members to participate in legislative visits and attend the State Board of Education meeting. And during this trip, we plan to meet with legislators, discuss topics of great importance to the district, including the impact of mandated costs for later school start times. If you're interested in joining us on this trip, it's a fantastic opportunity for our students. We'd love to invite any of you that might want to attend, up to 3 of you. So if you are interested in participating, please do let us know. That's March 12th. And then, Board, we mentioned it previously, but the schedule had to change from Thursday, February 6th to Tuesday, February 25th. We'll be launching our ribbon-cutting ceremony in partnership with our Water Career Pathways Program in partnership with East Valley Water District. So please mark your calendar to update that for that ribbon cutting. Excited about the opportunity for our students. And then next, I want to mention we have our Academic Decathlon Awards Banquet. This coming Friday, February 7th at 5:15 Ontario. Arroyo Valley, San Bernardino High School, and San Gregorio High Schools each participated this year's competition. Do we have any of you that are planning to attend this Friday, so we can make that note? Any of you that are able to attend this Friday at the Academic Decathlon Awards Banquet? It's at 5:15 in Ontario.
Our issues, we are out of state, so
Dr.
we
Wyatt,
have
thank
Dr.
you, Dr.
Wyatt.
Wyatt.
Good.
Much appreciated.
back in.
I myself cannot be there. Dr. Volkemer will be there, and I know some other staff, but that'd be fantastic. Any others able to make it, just let us know. And then, Board, I wanted to mention to you, today I had an opportunity, Dark Hunter this morning, to get a special tour of Loma Linda's new hospital. And I got to tell you, this is a state-of-the-art facility. It will be the tallest hospital in California, not to mention one of the tallest structures in San Bernardino County, and it is absolutely phenomenal. This is the adult and children's towers. In order to meet 2020 seismic standards, they've just gone over the top. It's one of the only or few buildings that you can literally drive under because it has such incredibly vast construction. You have to see it to believe it, but they have these plates that slide, can move up to 45 inches in either direction in the event of an earthquake. All the utilities move with it underground. Just absolutely phenomenal. It's a beautiful facility. It'll be 268 feet, and the entire project contains roughly 27,000 tons of steel. If melted down to 1-inch diameter cable, would stretch from Loma Linda to New York with 300 miles to spare. It's almost a $2 billion project, a fantastic facility, so grateful, and it's projected to open in spring of 2021. So just want to mention that to you. Those are all my comments.
Thank you. And just before we go to our consent items, I've been meaning to mention for EdSource. When EdSource, I know we all get it, and I noticed that our surrounding districts, like what you just mentioned, Ms. Medina, they will have accolades and different things like that. So, Ms. Bardier, I don't know if you see that or no, but it's, I'll see something from Rialto, I'll see something from Fontana, and I don't know if any of our stuff, I've never seen it in their recent. So that might be another source, like the things we just mentioned, those highlights, it would be great, because we get it, all the time electronically. All right, thank you. Item 11.1, approval of consent items.
So move.
Second.
Second, okay.
Are there items to pull? No? I'm not going to prolong it. Okay, let's vote. D. Karen, you didn't have to worry about pulling anything.
And just as a reminder, Board, again, when we approve our agenda next meeting, we'll ask you to pull any consent items at that time so we can have those.
There it is. It's there.
Cunningham.
We're going to do it before.
We would do it at the time that we approve the agenda. You'd pull those
We
items.
pull it out, okay.
Just be prepared.
Okay.
Will we have discussion during that time, though? I'm just curious.
Correct. Oh, yeah, you'll have all the discussion during consent time. It just allows Karen an opportunity to pull those items, get them set up for individual voting.
Okay. sounds good.
Okay. Oh, because of the technology.
Right.
Next is down. Aye.
No, I think his is not. Were you able to do his manual? Oh, okay, motion carried. Thank you. 12.1, personnel report. Number
As present-
12, dated February 4th, 2020.
As presented.
All right,
So moved.
Second.
let's vote. Yes. We'll take we're going to do a verbal vote for Dr. All right, thank you. Motion carried. We're now at item 12.2. Elementary and secondary science textbook adoption. I won't read that big number, Dr. Hill. I don't want to.
And we'll have Dr. Mitchell make a brief comment on this item.
Thank you, Dr. Marsden. Board, I left a board correspondence on your desk today. Lays out the particulars for the purchase. Science is one of our heavier adoption because those adoptions typically come with the hands-on classroom experiments, laboratories, things of that nature. I also want to assure the board that here forward, all of our materials come with a digital copy as well. And so you'll see kind of the list of materials in the adoption and their cost and what's generating that cost. Like I said, science and English typically are our largest adoptions. English because it comes with so many supplemental books. Science because we make it a point to, it's an 8-year adoption. We make sure that we get the renewables, recyclables inside of the adoption. We don't have to keep paying for those things. Like I said, they come heavy because of the laboratories. And then at the bottom on the third page, board, you'll see that the next 3 years of adoptions that's coming up, we got a pretty light year next year. Down at the bottom of the last page with world languages at 2 million, health at 2 million, both for next year. Next adoption for mathematics would be for 22-23. That usually comes in between 4 and 16 million. And again, 23-24, looking at another heavy cost with English. Like I said, that's usually heavy because of the supplemental resources that come with the adoption. I want to give you some background on that and give you a sense of why the cost is so high.
All right. So just so we know, we're on 12.2. There's no motion. Nothing has taken place. We're just kind of discussing it.
So moved.
Yes. Okay.
And-
All right. So we can get some discussion.
Dr. Mitchell.
In honor of Dr. Hill,
Go ahead.
$1 million for a textbook.
20,260.
Dr. Mitchell, I'm assuming that it was teachers had a hand in
Absolutely.
selecting these.
Yeah, they pilot it for a year.
Yeah.
And then they go through their voting, and this was the textbooks that
These are the texts that they each
that they selected.
level wanted.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And
Go ahead, and
Okay.
then Dr. Hill.
so then, I just want to find out, when was the last time we updated these books?
We do 7-year adoptions.
7
And as
year.
you recall, we were going through a recession at this time, and so In fact, all of our core curriculum, with the exception of our most recent adoptions, were far older than they should have been. Yeah, some were 15 years old because we had held off on adoptions because of when we were doing layoffs and so on and so forth. So our schools are in desperate needs of.
So then you said 7 years for these books?
Yeah, typical adoption is 7 years, ma'am.
Well, then I was wondering with these new additions, because it's a lot of money, and I understand that there was several people in giving their input, but realistically, a lot of this, is there changes, significant changes that we definitely, there's no way we have to purchase it?
Absolutely, especially
Or is
with
it
science.
minor changes? Because when you look at mathematics and other curriculum, will it impact if we kept the books that we have currently right now?
It would significantly hurt our children. Remember, we've transitioned to the Common Core State Standards, and now we've also transitioned to NGSS, which is a whole new way of thinking about science. So the textbooks are completely different than what they have been in the last 20 years. Our kids need to be able to compete on a world stage, and these materials are updated. As you know, science is always advancing. So NGSS is the new curriculum. And then with our other curriculums, we had Common Core that just came out. Well, and so these materials are critical for our kids to compete.
The reason why I say that is because, I understand that in many ways, we're trying to push for better student achievement, and we are struggling in some areas. But I know that it all depends on the teacher themselves.
Absolutely.
The way they teach and how they're able to connect with students. And so I don't know how much of a difference this would do to create, in closing that achievement or in improving achievement, because at the end of the day, I know that it's the teachers.
Absolutely, it is, and we agree. But look at it like this: our most affluent areas in California, their kids have these books. I know that this board is committed to our children having the materials and resources available to them to compete on a world stage, and absolutely we agree that teachers make the difference, but we want to make sure that our kids have in their hands the resources that more affluent areas have. So certainly we can start. This levels the playing field, and we need to continue to work on expert teaching.
Okay. Dr. Hill?
Thank you. And I know I'm going to surprise you. I support this. And the reason I support it is because you are moving into the high-tech global way of teaching science, and I appreciate that. I've got information that we are not giving kids the back-breaking books any longer, that it's really not back-breaking because they just take them home and put them on the dresser, which is where they stay until it's time to turn them in when they graduate. But I'm glad to hear about the supplements and all the new additions and what have you. And I'm just hoping that the teachers will understand that we expect them to prepare our students so they are global learners. Our teachers are more than capable of doing that, and our students are certainly capable of learning. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing some of the demonstrations at all of the grade levels. So I just said that to say that I do support this, but I hope as we take a look at the request of the Williams Act, if there are things that we need to change further, let's do that. You know, the author of that bill was Mel Fuhrer, who was the principal in San Bernardino, and son graduated from San Bernardino High School. So, yeah, so we can just say, come on, Cardinal, let's take a look at this again. So if we need to do that, and he's not that far because now he's the city attorney for the city of Los Angeles. But I understand there have been a lot of changes with the Williams, and I do appreciate that. And I believe students do not have to have a book to take home. They just have to have access to a book.
Absolutely. And with the digital copies, the great thing about the digital copies is now there's not a second and third edition of a book. They're just pushing that new edition out digitally. So our concern is making sure we're giving our mobility, making sure our children all have a device as well as access to the internet. And until such time that I can stand and guarantee that to you all as board members or we all as cabinet, we want to still be able to provide a book for our kids to go home.
Good. I appreciate you moving into the global century so that our students can achieve. Thank you.
Mr. Gallo?
Yes, I have a comment. As you know, we just held our science fair where hundreds of our students competed, not only here regionally, but also at the county level and state level, and some of our students might even get to compete at the national level if they make it that far. And some of the projects that they have done and the hands-on experiences and things are the types of things that are being reflected in these curriculum. So I hear you, Margaret, and I see a lot of our students engaged and inspired through participation in these science fairs, and so I'm a big advocate.
And before I call the vote, I just wanted clarity again. So I heard you say in this book adoption, some of it is electronic book?
All of it is digital.
All of it is?
All of our most recent adoptions and
Okay.
all of our adoptions going forward all come with the digital copy. For
Okay,
William,
so it comes with, but we're still getting the book, but it comes with the digital?
Absolutely.
But there is no, is there a difference in when you buy the book or buy it just digital?
No,
Or you have to
nominal.
buy them both together?
You buy them both.
Okay.
And digital alone would be so nominal, it's not even worth doing. So they're the same.
So there won't be a
Cost savings, no.
Cost is close.
Could we get access to those and maybe take a look at them?
The digital copy,
Digital
Mr. Gallo?
copies, yeah,
Or-
I'd
or
love
can I-
to. And maybe take some of the tests and stuff too.
Absolutely, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, that'd
Okay,
be great, thank you.
It's late for him completely.
As long as you don't publish the results,
Right.
right?
And we will require a report out on that one. Okay, so, all right, is there a motion? There's a motion already? Okay, so let's vote. There goes late start. Oh, motion carried. Ooh. 12.3, board ongoing initiatives and reports.
A move.
Let's vote.
Discussion?
Oh, you want to, okay, go ahead.
I'd like to just get clarification on number 5. Did you provide us, Dr. Mitchell, with the ethnic studies curriculum on last meeting? I don't think so.
No, what we're in progress now is the board. I've given you the scope and sequence and for the class. I've given you kind of a report out of where the class is happening.
Don't have
When I did that last, the board asked me to survey the teachers about their thoughts as well as the students, and so we are in progress to doing that, and we should have a report for you at the next board meeting.
I don't know, what is this number again? I don't see these numbered, and
Are you in 12.3?
I'm on board ongoing initiatives
No,
reports.
board top 10.
Oh, we're
No,
I don't
we're in the
think we're there.
initiative
We're
report.
not there yet.
We're not at
we're
the 10 yet.
Oh, I'm
No.
sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that
No, that's the.
was it.
this
Okay,
is the-
sorry.
The ongoing initiatives
Okay,
first.
sorry. Okay.
All right, so. Let's vote. Thank you, motion carried. So now we're at 12.4, and there is a printout if you, on the dais, if you don't have, click on and run into problems. This is the one, Dr. Flores, you were speaking about. So we did
That's
talk,
where we were. Yeah, sorry.
your motion, because we're going to discuss it.
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion?
Okay, so, Madam President, Number 5, Dr. Mitchell. Is it available for us to go look at
What is what?
the ethnic studies curriculum?
I've given you a copy of the curriculum as well as the book, but when you say I've given you the scope and sequence and what the course covers.
Yeah, but I'd like to see the books, the curriculum.
I had the book available for you in Karen's office.
Okay,
We'll have that. One book, but I'll get you a copy, Dr. Flores, no problem.
okay.
Is it the same book that we?
Same book.
Did we changed to another one?
No,
We still have the
same.
one that's kind of college
Yes, same book.
level? Okay.
That was my,
That was your only one?
With
Did-
that one.
Does anyone, because I know, Ms. Medina, you had asked about the two.
Yes, so then I was also wondering, within this, because I know it's not, it doesn't say looking at adding more classes, especially when you look at middle school. Is this something that we can incorporate within that one to try to make sure that we're looking into?
Yes, I in the last BC, I covered our plans to expand the program.
Oh, that's right, okay. Briefly.
Are you?
I do
She's
want to add, with regards to one of the items, when you look at those two, number 9 and number 10, to try to fill in, how are we going to select that? Because I do have one that I would like to push for, and that's looking at the career pathways. For some reason, it says environmental issues, but in reality, it's not, that's just a piece of it. It's looking at career pathways that are coming up in the future, and looking at certain career pathways that might not be relevant, say maybe 5-10 years from now. So that's what I was trying to look at, reevaluating career pathways to make sure that we're staying on top of what the future jobs are coming, what the upcoming jobs will be.
So Ms. Medina is asking to add, because we do have 2 spaces. I know we had another system in place before, but I would think that if someone doesn't have anything else, it's not like we got 10 that we're trying to decide among to put on there. That's one. Okay,
And
does anyone,
what does that one come from? Where, is that
section
part of
is that
the-
again?
Which,
So this one is the one I had put, so they added a word, so it's on page, let me see what page.
was it on the board follow-up stuff?
It
or
is under educational services, number 4.
On which one? The board follow-up one?
Well, there's 2 spaces on the.
No, but
I
what
know
section?
that's for the top 10,
yeah, board
but the
follow-up.
board follow-up, got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait.
That's the next agenda item, and it's online. It's on your online.
She's
No,
recommending that we
we're at-
move it to.
Yes, we're at top 10, so she's
Yeah.
asking in advance.
But which one do you want to move up?
So
of the-
that's number 4 under educational services. For some reason, it's off, it explains a little bit regarding environmental issues. I was looking at it more reevaluating our career pathways and making sure that they're, we have to keep updated with what careers are coming up in the next 10 years, which ones might not be as relevant, because we have to make sure we're just keeping with the times. That was my thing of trying to look at how we can bring this up to start looking at that.
I agree with her.
Okay, so we have that, and Dr. White, were you getting ready to mention another one? Special ed or?
Yes, Madam President. I just wanted to look and see, I know we have quite a few on, don't we have on career pathways already? I'm trying to find the list. So. The top 10.
While you were looking, I just want to add, Madam President, that I concur with Ms. Medina, because we need to also look at the trades. We also need to look at, like she says, what are future jobs in this area, and be in concert with our county, labor unions in
Right.
terms of, the prospects of employment and expertise that our students need to have. And so I think that, I read an article in EdSource today. I sent it to Karen to send to you guys. Fontana High has a trade in carpentry, and the kids are getting certification. So they
Right.
can move into into apprenticeships.
Right.
And I think that that would be wise for us to, look into the trades
So
as well.
Dr. Wyatt, also what he was saying is that number 2 is kind of vague as well. Again, trying to talk about
Combine
pathways.
both of them.
So if we combine them again, because we
Can.
really want them to be exactly what you
You
said.
can, and I do appreciate Dr. Flores mentioning the trades, because there are many unions that actually have apprenticeship programs have, and they are willing to join forces. So there's several pipe fitters, electrical, so there's different organizations that are, or
They have the
union-
curriculum already.
They do have it, and so that would be something that we.
Yeah, and one of the issues in my mind on this is very specific in that it says in light of environmental issues, and that could, if you specifically look at things to maybe eliminate certain career pathways, whether they're in a demand sector and demand occupations or not in environmental issues. The one you just raised in carpentry, for example, you could have an environmental argument about not providing any carpentry.
what I was referring to-
for use of materials and
I
things
guess
like
what I was
this. So
referring to, yeah, no,
That's what you mean. I
there's-
wouldn't be in favor of it.
So
but-
then there's the environmental aspect, meaning that, for instance, in the state of California, within diesel trucks, there's an elimination with the going to zero emissions. What I'm saying is that it might not be as relevant 25 years from now, 15 years from now. I'm just looking at which ones are, can we add, and which ones can we re-examine, and how relevant will it be, let's just say 15 and so forth years from
Yeah,
now.
and just so you know on that one, that happens to be, and I'm on the county workforce board that defines the demand and industry sectors, for our region, also on the state workforce boards that defines those demand occupations. And that is our number 2 demand occupation. So,
But then when you look at the transportation part, there's also doing the new, so there's new innovations within the transportation field that we should
Sure.
start looking
And
at.
As
So that
long
was the
as
whole
it's
point.
not to eliminate the things that are in the demand sectors, I'd be for it. And if it's to add new and to keep looking forward and projecting, I'm all with you.
Right.
I think that you said capture, what's, the current
Right.
comment. Mr. Tillman?
But I think it's critical if the goal is to put kids into careers immediately, it has to be the ones that are in the near future. I think that's totally different from looking 15 years out. I think we're looking now. But I will say also, like for instance, the one with diesel trucks is a perfect example. Study I read show where diesel trucks are not going to be replaced by electronic trucks within the next 10 years. So diesel trucks are going to still be there. But then the other thing, the study came out that said a lot of the positions that were normally male-oriented jobs are going away. But we need to have the discussion with our male students that you might want to look at some of the jobs in the service industry, whether it's nursing and those type of things, because that's where the jobs are going. That should be part of it, I think, is having that discussion with.
And that's part of that would be something that we can ask the district, what areas we can
Or
include.
do we
what should-
combine, like
so-
Scott
Yes.
says?
Well, my
that's
point
what I'm
is,
looking
what
at.
should drive and I don't think we've done this good enough, what should drive what we're doing in career pathways
Right.
should be what's going to be the most opportunity for the highest paid positions there out there. Now, I will say a good example was the students tonight going through the machine shop.
Right.
Because they're getting trained by what the industry has told us they need and want. That's the discussion we should have with all the industries, and then make sure that we have our students trained in those areas so they can get those type of jobs. And not leaving out any of the sectors, because I think one sector we leave out is government. There's tons of jobs in local government that we don't have a lot of pathways for. When you look at the number of pathways we have at our sites, for instance, just for doing computer work, whether in most government use Windows applications, and we set up regular PCs. There's not a lot of pathways for that other than San G.
Right, and so the whole point is
those
to
are
have that
high-paying
conversation,
jobs.
though. To have the district look at it and have that conversation to
Exactly.
how we can add and so forth.
Okay, so we
can
want to,
Can we redefine the action, the
combining it all
number
together.
2 and
Number
combine
2,
it?
yeah, that's.
Yes, and I want to make
You
sure,
brought in
Dr. Volkemer, you're capturing for the changing and the merging it. So, because it came up a couple of times, and each
Right,
time we bring it
but
up.
I
But
do-
all of that is important to.
Yes, but
it's examining.
I do want to make sure that, I agree, we want to look at the different sectors and we want to
Yes.
look at what's the job, but I also, for me personally, will bring it up, and I don't want to feel like I'm being pushed not to say things with regarding the environmental impacts, and plus how, here in California, there's certain sectors that might not be as popular in the future. So then that's something that I would like to still have part of the conversation, even if you don't agree with it. But what I'm saying is that, don't exclude that part. We can definitely look at new trades that we can bring in to our schools.
We'll do,
And Ms. Medina, I think a perfect example is solar
yeah, I was gonna say that
on
as well.
houses.
No, and solar's the same
Clean
example
energy.
too.
But
Yeah, sustainable.
what's gonna drive that is the reality that that's still a market that's growing.
Right.
And so then therefore, and it happens to coincide with environmental cleanliness that you're looking
Right.
at. But I don't think you want to overlook jobs and training for our students and for jobs that don't comply with the environmental cleanliness. I'll give you a good example. So much of this area is logistics and trucking and warehouses. And I think a lot of that would be declared anti-green, but there's the jobs, and you're gonna live
They're
anywhere.
part-time jobs, they're not really, so there's, yeah,
No,
there's,
I'm talking, I golfed with a guy the other day who does work on trucks. And because this area has so many trucks coming through it, it causes a,
you're talking about the
environmental-
trucks though.
No, I'm saying it causes an environmental problem, but there are a whole lot of jobs servicing those trucks. So if there are gonna be a lot of jobs there, I think we still wanna train our kids to service the trucks, even though it's bad for the environment.
So we've captured it all together, and so I think that should be the full, it may even turn into a workshop of something, as we design with the students involved in it, having that conversation so we can get their input and our input so we know. Because the career pathways, we continue to expand them, we do, but we still need to talk exactly, whether it's clean energy pathway, but we still need to define the pathways we have. Do we need to eliminate some of those, clean it up, so we can give a good focus on something like this, that it falls into a lot of categories, as we say pathways, but then, what Ms. Medina said, we gotta get a little bit more specific. Mr. Gallo, did you have something?
Yeah, again, I'm just suggesting that, and by the way, this is endorsed and delivered by the state, which, to Abigail's point, environmental considerations are certainly part of the demand industry sector characterizations that the state is wishing to promote. So the things that we're coming out with at the Workforce Development Board is certainly considering those types of effects and promoting those things that will yield appropriate environmental benefit as well. So I'm not arguing about that would be a perspective that we.
Plus, I think, because you sit on the board and you have that current information, we all need to, so that we can know
And this
as
is
we
available.
create
This
pathways.
is available by at the state. It's on the websites for specifically for San Bernardino County that's adopted. And we have developed career pathways in every single one of the demand sectors that have been identified.
And that's, those are the answers we need to all know as a group. Okay, thank you. So it sounds like we're still at 9 and 10. It's still open, right? We just combined and kept 9 and 10. So okay, Dr. Wyatt?
No, Madam President, I just wanted to, talk to the board about possibly adding, number 2 off of continuous improvement. And that is, consider checklists for parents attending IEPs and develop a quick start guide for the parent handbook in light of, some of the conversations we've had here at the board and public presentations. Some of our advocates that are out there supporting our parents. I think it's really important that they've been heard and that we react to them as well with giving them this checklist and parent information guide. I want to thank Dr. Menardez. I have presented the principal, IEP guide and special ed guide to our administration at many different levels, and it's been received and applauded highly. I actually got a little recommendation coming back from it to us. So it's we're getting excellent feedback on it, and I think we'll get the same feedback as well when we produce these items for our parents and families as well.
That's number 2. It's number 2 on continuous improvement as well. So we are asking to move that one over to 9. if there's no, is there any other that's sticking out?
No, I
right
support
now?
it. I think
Okay,
it's very
so are we
important.
okay with that one? So we're moving number 2 on continuous improvement, which is consider the checklist for parents attending IEPs. And it's a quick start guide, parent handbook, but it would be, something to add to the work that you're doing right now. Okay, so we're moving that. All right, so if there are no others, there'll be another time to digest it and come back. And I won't say character count right now because of the issues that you brought up. Even though character count is important, I'm not going to ask to move it over right now. But if that spot remains, I just might. All right, so we are going to vote. Nope, we have one.
Yeah.
We had one. Right. Mr. Gallo? Dr. Wyatt?
Are we on 12-4 or 12-5?
12-4.
4. Motion carried. We're now at 12.5, board follow-up.
So moved.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? Let's vote. Motion carried. Thank you. Item 12.6, future agenda items.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion? All right, let's vote. Motion carried. Thank you. Item 13.1, staff review.
Thank you, Madam President, Board. These are the follow-ups I have from this evening's meeting. We have 3 in terms of the MTSS presentation. One is to stress the attendance and engagement of our various stakeholders, make sure they're involved in attending meetings. Second is consider changing the term theory of action to theory in action. I put /praxis in terms of our MTSS work. Number 3, include the board in the flow chart of communication and how decision-making is made. Include the board for both the policy piece of the work and the budgetary considerations. Next, we have consider funding tower gardens at the entrances of our Board of Education building. Next, consider involving our ethnic studies teachers in Dr. Murillo's work at Cal State University San Bernardino. Next, explore opportunities for kids at Garner Holt, including the possibility of a pathway. Next, provide, this is for Chief Polino, provide our security and safety needs, not just an update of what we've done, but what future needs are and what the budgetary costs would be. Provide teacher input in regard to the item analysis BC that was presented this evening. Next, getting some feedback. Highlight Joseph Reed's achievement in various forms of social media and print media. Next, explore ways for students to vote. Make sure they know that voting is available and how we might facilitate that on our campuses. Next, look into labor studies as it relates to civic engagement. Review the use of DIBELS as part of the MTSS framework. Explore more advantageous locations for our parent engagement centers on our high school campuses. Next, explore the policy change that was brought up this evening around CASP and its impact on magnet school lottery participation. Madam President, you said something to the policy committee, make sure you're doing, and I didn't quite capture it, I was writing. What was the specific policy committee? Policy subcommittee, excuse me? You remember?
I think I was asking whether the policy committee was involved in that, or to make sure that they're in that discussion, or, oh, and the other policy committee was on cell phones.
That's what it was.
Yes. The cell phone bill that we need to, discuss.
Got it. Thank you. That was what I missed. Thank you.
Yes.
Explore supporting the chess club at Rio Vista. And then in terms of our board follow-ups and going to the top 10, move continuous improvement number 2 to the top 10. And then this is my attempt at the board discussion I just heard, so keep me in check. Analyze current career pathway offerings in terms of their current, short-term, and long-term viability consistent with identified industry needs. Is that what you were trying to capture? Okay, great. And those are all the follow-ups.
Okay, we are now at item 14.1. We will adjourn to closed session, and then we will not be reporting out.